Are we good? Are we on? All right. Welcome to the Board of Directors meeting for MSAD 51, Thursday, May 21st. I am really excited for how we're going to start this evening with recognition and a meeting of the namesake of our new school, Carolyn F. Small. I will admit I was a bit embarrassed when you reached out to me about meeting the board who just voted to name the school after you, because I was like, oh yeah, we've never met, and so I'm so grateful that you are here this evening. So I'm Leanne Candora. I live in North Yarmouth, not Cumberland. I know you know a few members of the board, but maybe we'll just take a chance. Everyone can say hello and meet you. So this is my 4th year on the school board. And I've been really excited to be part of the process that is getting this school built, and to be a little part of what ended up voting for its name. So if we want to start at the end and we can do some introductions.
Hi, my name's Caitlin. I'm the junior rep on the board. We just met walking in, actually, so it was super nice to formally meet you, even though I probably met you in 2nd grade. Yep. And so we're really happy to have you here, so thank you for coming.
I'm Megan Lichter, and you and I worked together with Steve Moriarty on selecting a piece from the old maintenance building, Union Hall, to incorporate into the new school. Yep. And I saw you on Friday night for the scavenger hunt. You were our special guest. I'm glad you could be here tonight.
The scavenger hunt that the Historical Society does, we give a $1,000 scholarship to a Cumberland Greeley senior every year. So and the scavenger hunt provides that for us.
Good evening, Carolyn. Sean Thurston. We might know each other. I too.
Yeah, I put him to work at the him and his wife at the exhibition hall.
I too think my first memory of you was in 2nd grade during Maple Syrup Day. Yeah. So I appreciate that.
Yeah. Annika Hole. I also live in Cumberland and have kids in the school. So while I did not go through the school system myself, I certainly remember hearing about them learning about the maple syrup production process with you. So yeah, thanks for being here.
I'm feeling old, Carolyn.
I'm older than you are, so back off, Buster.
Scott Poulin. We know each other well.
I'm Kim Vine. And
oh, yeah.
Yes, your granddaughter, Alicia, and my daughter, Kelly, went to preschool all the way till graduation. So,
and volleyball.
And played volleyball together, exactly.
My granddaughter had a killer serve.
You remember that. This is why we did this.
Jesse Lamar Vincent. I'm from Cumberland, and I know I've met you a couple of times at the Historical Society when I've been there researching various things like the rededication of the turf field and doing some research there. So yeah, it's great to have you here with us.
I'm Sarah Rose, and your granddaughter, Alicia, was in my eldest daughter's Girl Scout troop for all of her years, and Laura and I worked together doing that. Laura, your daughter-in-law, and my daughter's troop. My daughter's name is Laura as well. Oh. Sorry. And I have 4 daughters, Laura, Hannah, Caroline, and Grace. All have very clear memories of...
I hope they're all good.
They're all wonderful.
There are some who would not be.
So I'm grateful.
And I'm the last one here. I'm Lauren Welliver. I live in Cumberland, and same thing. I have 2 children who've come through, and I've heard about your visits to school when they were at Mabel I. Wilson, and I really enjoyed hearing all the stories at public comment of the folks who came forward to make sure that we all knew how special you were. So.
I am still trying to wrap my brain around this. It just. It's kind of overwhelming, but I am thrilled and honored. I really am. Like I said to Sarah, I've got my obituary here. When my father, I'm a Navy brat, proud of it, go Navy. My father was career Navy. My husband was a Seabee, and my brother was in the submarine, so we're a Navy family for sure. When my father retired, they had bought a house on Greeley Road, actually in North Yarmouth, and we moved here in the Christmas vacation of 1959. I graduated from Greeley Institute in 1961. I know this is going to surprise some of you, but particularly Shirley, that I was the class clown of 1961. Go figure on that one. Found a tall, blue-eyed, red-headed local boy, got married in 1962. We started a family 1964, 1965, and 1970. I started with MSAD 51 at the North Yarmouth Memorial School in 1975 when my son Daniel went into kindergarten. That was the year from hell, excuse my language. That was the year that the North Yarmouth School burned. We had 2 classes together. There was a 2nd and 3rd grade looping thing. We had 57 students together. That wouldn't happen nowadays. But there were 2 of us ed techs in the class too. So we went to West Custago. We were located, because of the class size, we were at the Grange Hall, which has consequently burned. The fact that my family is very involved with the fire department. It's got nothing to do with all these fires, believe me. Worked for the district for 35 years. And I am a member of the Cumberland Historical Society, the Cumberland Farmers Club, Mayflower Descendants. I'm the exhibition hall superintendent at the fair. Put that guy to work, and his wife. I'm the coordinator for Maine Ag Day that the 2nd grade from Mabel, Irene Rodden Wilson. I don't know how many of you know that one. At the school, they come up for the Maine Ag Day, which is a Maine agricultural education day. People think that, you go to Hannaford and take the butter off the shelf and that's where it comes from. Ain't necessarily so. So they learn about that. Derek Soul brought his Maine Studies class to visit us last week. That was a fun group to work with. I just got the schedule today from the 2nd grade from Mabel Wilson School that they're going to be starting June 8th, I think is the first one. There's going to be 2 classes at a time. I think I got a notice from Emily Cairns. There's going to be 2 classes from the 3rd grade that come. They're going to do a collaborative visit between the Historical Society and the library, so they're going to switch and swap. I think all the 3rd grades are going to be coming, but I'm not sure about that. That's it. Any questions for me?
Just appreciation.
Pardon me?
Appreciation.
Oh,
Thank
well,
you for all you've given to the
I
town.
appreciate the honor of being, like I said, I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. I think my husband is more proud of it than, well, I know, because I'm very proud too. So anyway, thank you very much for the honor. It is much appreciated.
Well, I just know we're so grateful that we do get a new school that we get to open, and I know that's not necessarily what's happening in Maine right now. Not a lot of communities have a new school, and the fact that we have somebody who's still so active in our community that we can honor in this way.
Keeps me out of jail.
So. I mean, well, we may have to change the name if you do get arrested, so if that keeps you honest.
That could happen.
Duly noted. Okay. Any other questions?
I just really want to say thank you for everything you've done for the community, your involvement and everything, and kind of you've captured a lot of history of families like mine and other families throughout the community, and it means a lot to us. And we wouldn't know where we're going tomorrow without knowing where we came from. So thank you for everything you do.
Oh, I like that. I like that. Yeah, I mean, if there's a group of us that meet on Monday mornings and Saturday mornings If you want to come and visit us, we'd show you around and show you all the really neat artifacts that we have from families in Cumberland. So Cumberland has got a really rich history from 1821 to present time. So we're trying to keep everything as much as we can. Thomas Bennett, who's a former library director, said to me once, "Carolyn, you can't keep everything." I said, "Watch me." So, he's moved since. I don't know if that had anything to do with it or not. So, well, thank you for the honor. Did you have
I just wanted to say whatever.
I didn't want to take up your important business time.
Oh, this is the good stuff. So you have done such an amazing job of recording and making that history accessible. And what I love is that your history, the history that you've lived through since coming into Cumberland, that history will become even more alive for kids. So I hope you're writing everything down.
Oh yeah,
all these memories that you have, we want to preserve those.
My husband's history is more. I mean, being a Navy brat, I've been all over the place, but our grandchildren are fifth generation Smalls to graduate from Greeley. Alicia, by the way, has got two sons, so I've got two great grandsons. Yeah. There's Willie, who's 8 years old, and then there's the Hurricane, who is 2.
Just wait.
Whoa, trying to keep up at age 82, trying to keep up with a 2-year-old is daunting, to say the least. So.
Well, yeah, thank you so much, and we look forward to inviting you back when we do the official
Yeah, I'm doing the
opening.
signing on the beam next week, and they've invited me also to hand out hard hats with some of the kids that are going to be in the school, so that sounds like fun to me.
Right? We'll just keep you involved, and I just love anything that can continue to connect like our schools to our community is so important, and we're so grateful.
Well, the other schools, I mean, Geiger Gym was John Thomas Geiger. It was going to originally be the Cumberland Gym, but he passed unexpectedly, like I think it was 10 days before the dedication, so they named it for him. We've got a lovely World War I picture of him. We don't have the one that was here, and that's lost in space somewhere. Trisha's been trying to find it, but we do have a Liefel at Greeley's portrait at the Historical Society. The E.K. Sweetser School was Ezra Knight Sweetser. He was a teacher, actually, at what is the Historical Society building now, but he was also superintendent of schools for a few years. Of course, there's Mabel I. Wilson School. Yeah. We've got some other names.
That's great. Well, and like I said, I think we're going to have some more opportunities from now, and especially till the school opens.
Come on down.
Great. Thank you so much. We really appreciate you coming out tonight.
Back where it belongs.
You gonna do a picture? Yeah.
Make it look official.
Okay, great.
Get all the chips in there?
We can fix that right out.
So funny.
All right. Okay, we're going to move to approval of minutes. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes of the April 15th, 2026 meeting, please?
So moved.
Thank you, Jesse. Can I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, corrections? Hearing none. All in favor?
Abstain. I wasn't there.
Abstain. Okay, Sean's abstaining.
Well, I wasn't there either, so.
Okay.
Can I
Sarah's
move it
abstaining.
if I wasn't? Can I move the motion if I wasn't there?
Yeah, can somebody move the motion if they weren't at the meeting? Because there's a vote.
I don't see why not.
Yes,
because
you
it's a
can,
vote.
yes.
Yes.
You just abstain from the vote. Okay,
Yeah, I don't see a problem with that.
That's perfect. Okay. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes of the May 7th, 2026 meeting, please?
So moved.
Thank you, Sean. Can I get a
Second.
Okay, thank you. Any questions
on top of it.
or comments? Okay, all in favor? Any abstentions? No? Okay, great. All right, so we are going to move to public comment. We have one person signed up for public comment. I have something that I typically read. It's really the rules of the road. I reference our policy BEDH. David Noonan is very familiar with the comments. Thank you for coming this evening. So I will not share them all.
Fair enough.
You know
Appreciate it.
the game. Yeah.
Dave Noonan, 9 Meadow Lane. Want to take this opportunity as I am running for school board. I don't do the signs, I don't do social media, all that stuff. So just wanted to kind of read a portion of my platform, if you will. So now that Governor Mills has signed a bell-to-bell personal device ban that each school board must have their own policy in place by 8/1/26, it's even more important now to have a plan for thoughtful use of technology in classrooms. The New York Times reported that administrators in school districts that already implemented a personal device ban have found that without their phones, students were using laptops for distracting activities like watching YouTube or playing games rather than learning. Some were even using their school Gmail accounts to tease other students. I would recommend our schools transition to using laptops only for specific teacher-assigned activities. Children can take notes the old-fashioned way on pen and paper, and this would help with retention of lessons. Despite benefits, digital classroom environments present serious risks to children's well-being. Studies indicate 31% of students aged 9 to 16 have experienced cyberbullying through educational platforms, with 22% reporting negative impacts on their mental health. Screen time management remains a critical concern. Children who use devices for more than 4 hours daily in educational settings show 37% higher rate of sleep disturbances, 29% increase in attention difficulties, 18% higher levels of anxiety symptoms. Teachers report increased concerns about technology impact on pupils' emotional regulation, with 47% noting decreased face-to-face social skills development. With all these statistics, there has to be a balance. Evidence suggests that technology in the classroom can support or harm learning, depending upon how it's used. The evidence shows more isn't better. Students who use technology moderately tend to outperform those who use it heavily or those who use it rarely. Younger children are especially vulnerable. Research on early screen exposure consistently shows that children who spend more time in front of screens have poorer developmental outcomes. The quality of educational apps varies. Children in schools should look for programs based on educational research. And of course, the device doesn't replace the teacher. Technology is most effective when it supports instruction. So that brings me to, I had a one-on-one with a couple teachers this week, and every single, my daughter's in 5th grade, every single desk had a Google Chromebook on it. And it wasn't stowed away, it was just there, ready to use aptly. My daughter actually got in trouble this last week for a couple students for using the Google Chromebooks in editing one another's projects, right? And the teacher also told me that students had tried to revoke their privileges as teachers, right? So it's a lot of different things going on in here. And I also spoke to someone who actually, I gave out my email address on the town website for anybody who would like to talk to me about different things. And one did respond and said that one of his students that went through the schools was using TikTok, Instagram, and of course YouTube in the classroom, which I guess the teachers didn't realize. Actually mentioned you, Mr. Gray. Didn't realize that, well, he brought it to your attention and you fixed it, but didn't realize that the school district didn't realize that that was actually happening. So I think we need to have a lot of room to grow with this, and this was a couple of years ago, grant you, but since it's been fixed. But I think we just have a lot of room to grow when it comes to technology use in schools.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, so we'll close public comment, and now we're gonna move into presentations, or as we like to say, the Murray Treblecock Show this evening. We're going to start with the stakeholder survey summary and then move into our strategic priorities plan.
I might be here for days. Let me just get connected really quick. Really? Okay. Okay, so we're going to start with the stakeholder survey, and hopefully you're able to see some connections between what we see in the stakeholder surveys with where the next presentation goes. Hopefully there are some common threads. So the first thing is to just remind you why we administer the survey. It's an annual temperature check on various aspects of the school district. We like to regularly measure student, staff, and parent attitudes on what's happening in the schools. It is a metric in Jeff's annual report. It helps us monitor trends and respond proactively. And I think this last bullet is the one that's nearest and dearest to my heart. It really does help administrators and staff inform our priorities and then mark progress on our priorities and set goals in our site improvement plans and other areas of the district. So as we go through this report, you've seen this slide in years past. We're defining satisfaction by 80% positive responses or higher. Green flagged items are areas that have gained 4 percentage points or more in a year-to-year trend, and then the yellow flagged items have seen a 4% or more drop over 1 year. Okay, let me catch up with my slides here. Okay, so a couple of points about this slide. The percentage of parent and guardian responses is probably not accurate over time because it's based on the total number of students enrolled in our schools. It's not possible to account for more than one parent response that naturally comes from two-parent households or step parents and so forth. So I would say take the parent response number with a grain of salt, although it's folks who identify as parents who responded in our community. The staff response has declined significantly over the past couple of years. It's not clear to me why people are opting out. There were multiple reminders about completing the survey, multiple opportunities. Administrators provided staff meeting time to take the survey and encouraged people to take the survey and explained how we use it. So I think that being said, I do think we need to take the staff data with a grain of salt and really question the strength of its validity. It is within the range of what's typically considered valid survey data, which is like 20 to 30% response rate, but it's still not a high response rate, and it is continuing to decline even with efforts to encourage people to take the survey. I have some thoughts on how we might address that. My first thought is, I wonder about survey fatigue. Should we switch to every other year? Question. And then action step that I plan to do in the coming year is to make a date with every principal for a staff meeting time that is when the survey is open, and go in person, in person, to every school building and make a plea for why it's important that they participate in this survey, and really encourage people to take the survey so that they understand that we're actually using this data to inform our decisions. I haven't done that before, and I don't know if it will get traction, but I think it's worth a try. So those are my thoughts on, steps forward, but I'm not happy with the response rate. And then meanwhile, the student and parent survey responses increased this year. Students in particular had a fairly high rate of return thanks to school administrators finding time in their schedules, thank you to the admin, to make sure students took the survey. And we do consider student validity to be fairly high and parent validity to be quite solid. Okay, so jumping in to students in grades 3 through 5. So this is consistent with past years. Students in grades 3 through 5 are continuing to report high satisfaction levels across these 10 indicators. The data in this table is stable over time. We do have some nice increases in my teacher finding different ways to help me learn. And I really love number 10, students at school treat me with respect. And you'll begin to see a theme with that, which is really heartening and exciting to me. So satisfaction below 80%, I make choices in what I learn. So this indicator has been below 80% for the last 3 years, but you can see that it is climbing. So while it's the one area below 80% for students in grades 3 through 5, there is evidence that they're increasingly satisfied in this area too. So just generally good news at the elementary level. And then for students in grades 6 through 12, there are a couple of areas of increased satisfaction for students in grades 6-12 that are worth highlighting. Students are noticing more respect for diversity and more opportunities for creative thinking and creative work in their classes. So that's positive news. And then you can see some notable changes in the increase in satisfaction with course and arts offerings at school and the connection to a trusted adult in the school, again, one that makes my heart sing. That's a key indicator of belonging and a protective factor for students who are at risk for mental health challenges. So I feel like a lot of the things that we've been doing for the past probably 7 or 8 years appear to be getting some traction. So this is satisfaction below 80% among students in grades 6 through 12, and this slide shows that we still have some work to do in making learning relevant for our secondary students and in differentiating our instruction. There are heartening gains in the perception of students to student interactions, with an increase of 10 percentage points for the statement, "Students at my school treat each other with respect." That's a big deal to me, so even though it's still below 80%, that's an impressive jump in an area that's really important. And then additionally, the statement, "Harassment and bullying are treated seriously," gained 7 percentage points. So these two are areas that help us assess those overall feelings of belonging in school, and I think they're important areas of growth for us. Okay, so the staff survey. I want to start with some background information. We revised the staff survey this year. We elected to pilot some changes to our staff stakeholder survey because we felt the results that we were getting were not offering clear, actionable data for administrators and leadership teams. And so, for example, we had a number of double-barreled questions in our survey. These are questions that ask for 2 things in one question. It becomes difficult to tease out what they're answering. So for example, you might ask, how effectively is school and district information communicated to you? But when you read the results, you don't know if it's the school information or the district information, and to really parse that out and have it be actionable, you want to know, which one am I answering? And when it's grouped together, it's hard to really tease that out. So we separated double-barreled questions into 2. In some cases, we discovered that they were repetitive questions. In those cases, we elected to keep one of the 2, not both. So an example of this was the statement on the previous survey that said, "The superintendent makes efforts to be visible and engaged with students and staff." So we elected to keep, how visible is the superintendent in the schools? And drop the question of engagement with students and staff. When choosing one over the other in these situations, we chose the question that we felt would yield the most actionable information for our planning purposes. So this was a collaborative effort over time to get the questions just so. Some questions were split into two, with one geared towards teachers and another geared towards support staff. For example, we asked teachers how useful feedback they received on their teaching was to them, but we asked support staff a more general question about how effective feedback on their work was to them, because they have different roles and responsibilities. It's nuanced, but because of those different responsibilities, it really did make sense to bifurcate the questions. And then we posed the survey as questions rather than statements, in keeping with good survey design practices. Respondents could either choose not to answer questions or select not applicable for things that did not apply to them. So not every question was answered by 100% of respondents. We also had 5 options on our Likert scale. And so when you see the percentages, it's really from the neutral to the highest range that is reflected in the percentages. Okay, so we also chose to group questions into themed categories to help us analyze data on the back end of things. We included those categories on the survey itself so people knew what they were speaking to and what we were interested in hearing from them. And then each category heading included a description of the types of questions survey respondents would encounter in that section, as well as who to consider as they responded to questions. And so I'll clarify that in sections as we go along. And so because of these changes, we're not able to compare this year's data to prior year data in a truly meaningful way. But we did feel it was worth it to start a new baseline to support data collection that would yield more actionable results. And then really, because we use this staff stakeholder data to help shape our SIP goals, and so having the data be meaningful is really important to us. So let's jump in. Okay, so questions in this section reference the feedback and coaching staff might receive from a variety of sources, including administrators, supervisors, and peers. We asked that respondents consider all of these feedback and coaching sources in their responses. So it's collective, it's not just administrators that they're talking about here. And you can see that support staff find the feedback that they receive on their work to be highly meaningful, and it's less meaningful for teachers and specialists. Support staff also report receiving feedback more frequently than teachers do. So that was that one. And then questions in this section refer to school administrators, and that really pertains to administrators alone. And then questions also refer to school leaders, and that's inclusive of administrators, specialists, and department leaders. Stronger areas in the area of school and department leadership include the clarity of SIP goals and showing concern for individuals. There is a perception of lower impact by school leaders on the quality of their teaching and less teacher voice and decision making in the school. Okay, so for support staff, this is an example of where it was separated out, teachers and support staff. So for support staff, you can see that there's a strong sense of clarity regarding SIP goals, school leaders' pulse on what's happening in the schools, and concern for the individual staff member. And again, staff voice and decision making is a lower rating. Support staff, interestingly, is generally higher in terms of satisfaction than teacher satisfaction as well, kind of throughout, you'll see that. Here, teaching efficacy, this is really about their own skill set and being able to achieve goals. So teachers are reporting high levels of efficacy in their ability to teach the learners who are in front of them every day, which is good news. And teachers and support staff received these questions. They were the same for both groups.
They report high levels of pride in being part of MSAD 51 staff community, and their contributions to the work of their school and district is high. Okay, in terms of access to resources, the general theme here is that staff acknowledge that the district is well-resourced, and that's consistent with past years. And here you can see some acknowledgement that the special education department is well-resourced and highly responsive to student needs. This data for special education has increased in the last year from what it was. I'm not sure if it really mattered separating it out by teachers and specialists and support staff. It just was kind of higher overall. So this is about professional development and collaboration. And again, you can see the difference between teachers and specialists and support staff. And this was an interesting one to me. And to me, speaks to the value of separating it out by group, because you get a different sense from the different groups of what is meaningful to them. So the variability speaks to these different responsibilities our teachers and specialists have compared to what support staff have for responsibilities. So for example, a data analysis professional development meeting would probably naturally have less relevance to a school administrative assistant than it does to a teacher, but their district administrative assistant trainings might have more value to them. So district PD versus building-based PD, you can see a discrepancy in the value there, and that's probably why, or I'm speculating that's why. Likewise, K-12 Ed Tech PD is tailored to the needs of our ed techs, and safety care training is intended for a specific and select group of staff requiring specialized training in behavior management. So all of that being said, there is a real opportunity with the data separated out like this to apply the feedback to our professional development planning going forward. When you know more, you do more, right? Okay, so in terms of communication, all staff report high levels of communication from schools, departments, and district levels. So that's good. They feel like they're getting the information they need. You can see here that staff reported lower levels of clarity and satisfaction with human resources procedures. And the superintendent and the board, staff reported the superintendent's articulation of a shared vision that centers on the success of all students is effective, but there was a lower perception of the balance between meeting student needs and the community's ability to fund those needs. Don't think that's a huge surprise. We always want more than we can afford, right? And then in terms of safety, high level of belief that our district prioritizes safety. So those are the staff results. And then for parents and guardians, we're back to, I didn't change this survey, so this is back to the original design from prior years. Overall, parent and guardian satisfaction remains high and fairly stable over time. As you look across these 3 years of data, pretty consistent, with minor fluctuations up or down from one year to the next, but pretty high and pretty stable. And here you can see more of the same. High levels of satisfaction, all above 80%. And then here we see one area where there's a dip in satisfaction with sports offering. It's still above 80% satisfaction overall. And what I've been noticing is when it comes to sports, clubs, and arts offerings, this is true in student data and also in parent data. They tend to fluctuate from one year to the next a little bit. So one will go up and the other one will go down. Students will report higher satisfaction. Parents will say, well, we're a little less satisfied with it. So that's just an interesting thing to me, but generally high satisfaction overall. And then in terms of satisfaction below 80%, these are the areas. You can see a drop in satisfaction in the arts opportunities offered for students and fairly stable results in bus safety and club offerings. These were the only areas below 80% satisfaction for parents and guardians. And I will say that I'm pleased to see the gradual increasing of bus safety satisfaction. So that one's still below 80%, but remember we got the cameras a couple of years ago, and I think that's really making a difference in terms of the perceptions of bus safety, so that's good. Okay, so just to summarize some areas of satisfaction. The feelings of belonging and safety at school seem to be improving. Teacher clarity of expectations and their support for learning was a highlight. The respect for diversity in the school reported by students was an improvement, which is lovely to see. There are clear behavioral expectations and follow-through. Challenging thinking skills-based learning has improved. District communication to staff has been strong. Communication to families was a highlight from the schools. And across all groups, pride in our schools, our MSAD 51 community. So those are all the highlights. And then some areas for further monitoring. They remain pretty stable with where they've been. When I was standing here last year, these are still areas that we want to monitor. So student choice in learning and the variety of educational activities improving, but there's room for further growth. We want to really take a look at our building-based professional development for support staff, HR practices. Bullying and harassment is improving, but there's still room for growth. After-school athletics and arts offerings, again, that fluctuates from one year to the next. The bus safety is improving, but we want to continue to monitor that. And then the staff survey response rate is the big one for me. I saved the best for last. That one I really feel like we need to attend to that. And I have some ideas that will show up in the next presentation for you about how we might do that. Okay. So I actually hesitated to include this slide this year because of the shift in the survey format for staff. But in the end, I decided to include it so you could see that the data is solid for students and continues to improve at the secondary level in particular. Parent feedback is stable and reflects high levels of satisfaction within the schools. And while the data for staff is lower than I'd like it to be, there are 2 points that I really want to hone in on. First, support staff appear to be quite a bit more satisfied than teachers and specialists. Until now, there was no way for us to tell how people with diverse roles were feeling. And that was less actionable for us than what we see now. And so that's important to me. And then secondly, the total satisfaction rate is exactly the same as last year at 69% overall for all stakeholders. So this suggests to me that our staff are probably fairly flat with last year in terms of their overall satisfaction, even though the survey looks a little bit different. Again, we can't fully compare with different formats. And we know that this continues to be an area of work as we go forward, but hopefully our new survey format can help us do that in more meaningful ways. And we get more people to respond to the survey. So do you have questions about the survey that you want to throw at me before we jump into the strategic priorities?
You know, I'm laughing because I always have questions about the survey, and I have had a few prior to this, but I will let other board members if they have questions.
I just have the same concern about the teachers and their not filling out the survey.
Yeah.
And whether there's, what's the motivation to not fill it out? Right?
Right.
Is it lack of interest or lack of feeling like it's heard? Question mark, question mark. And would really like the feedback.
Yeah,
It's just
yeah.
really important for us to know.
And short of asking a survey,
And there were a lot of
Right?
surveys this year.
There's
You
a-
know, we asked a lot of questions and we asked for a lot of information from a lot of people.
right.
I know the number was already low. Can you just proportionally, do you know the of the 120 responses that you put in the staff section, how much were support staff and how many were teachers, just proportionally?
Oh gosh, I wish I had written that down.
Well, I wish I
do
would have
have
asked when I asked questions before.
Can I pull it and email it to you? Because I do have that. I'll email the board with
Okay,
that.
yeah, I was just curious.
It was more teachers and specialists than support staff, if my memory serves.
Okay, and
But I
when we
wouldn't. I wouldn't trust that either.
No, that's fine. I won't hold you to it. And if we, just a reminder, when we say support staff, who are we talking about?
We're talking about ed techs. We're talking about office staff. It might be, so our folks who work in facilities can
Okay,
fill
great,
it out,
great.
our bus
what I
drivers.
was- great.
It's everybody in the district
Okay.
has the ability to respond to the staff surveys, and we have paper and pencil
Mm-hmm.
versions that we give to folks if they don't have the technology access
Okay.
in
And
their roles.
administrators, they don't.
Administrators can take it too. I took it. I took the survey.
Did you, gentlemen?
Yeah.
I had one thing I wanted to flag for that it was a high school only question. My school is well maintained. It went from 70% in 2024 all the way up to 86% now. I think that's really important because I know the district has done a bunch of work to like replace tile and paint and just replace little things here and there. And I know we have incredible staff who are cleaning the schools every evening and keeping up the grounds. And that's noticed by high school kids. And I think that's important to point out because there's a lot of people who work for the district who aren't in the classroom who are taking care of campus, and it's
Yeah.
noticed by the high school kids, and I think that's great.
Thank you for highlighting that. I missed it in the presentation, but you're absolutely right. It was a big jump.
Yeah, that's great.
Can I ask a quick question? I think you said that though that number's not where you want it, that you are able to parse out of the teachers and specialists, like which school or which building they're in?
So we do have that data as well. We don't share, we disaggregate it for the schools. And so that's what building administrators and their leadership teams use to help set their SIP goals, their site improvement goals. And so Carl, who's sitting here today, has all of his data for Greeley High School from staff, students, and parents, and he'll sit down at some point, if he hasn't already, with his leadership team, and they'll go through it, and it informs goals. And I will say that as a former principal, we take that data by school very seriously. And so when people don't respond to the data, it's challenging, right? Because you're sort of playing darts with a blindfold on a little bit. So we really do want people to take the survey.
I just wanted to say thank you for breaking out the survey. I know it's something we've mentioned for a few years now, and I know it's not easy, it's not quick. It's a lot of time and effort went into that, so I just want to say thank you. So I think we get a better picture now.
I think our next step, what I'd like to do is put a pin in changing the parent and student surveys and for another year, go slow to go fast, and really focus on what do we need to do to increase the response rate of staff so that we have that information and have it meaningful and actionable.
Yeah, well, so I also appreciated the opportunity to submit some questions in advance. Thank you for responding to those. I think many of them were addressed as you presented, but of course, as sitting here, I came up with the same question as Leanne, which I had failed to ask in advance, just in terms of what that breakdown was between teachers and specialists and support staff. I'm also wondering about the parent survey. I wonder if one thing that impacts that response to after-school athletics and activities depends on where their kids are in school. So if you're a parent of an MIW student, you're probably, I'm guessing, rating that lower than if you're a parent of a high schooler. And so moving forward, maybe with the parent survey, I guess, thinking about, do we want to, which parents might have students in different schools too. I'm sure it becomes complicated, but is there a way that we can make that
to separate
more
that
meaningful
out
at the building level? I'm not sure.
I'm honestly not sure if Melissa already has that information. She might. So that's a big question mark over my head right now. Do you see it? But she might already have it that way. One thing that would be an upgrade on the parent and student surveys is to have a not applicable category. I don't think we've had those. She may have added it this year to all of them, but in the past we didn't have that. So that would be a hard one to answer if you have children in the elementary school where there really aren't that many athletic offerings. That they're offered by rec, for example. So duly noted.
Sorry, Kim, did you have other?
It was answered.
Okay, great. I, again, have just a couple more questions. Can you remind me you said you updated the staff survey to be a 5-point scale with a neutral option. Is the student and parent survey,
That's 4.
That's 4.
Yep.
Okay. Can I encourage you to look in the future to not include the neutral option in the percentages for satisfaction for the staff to take a look at? I think
to really force them to not ride the fence.
Well, if they ride the fence, I don't know if we want to say that they were satisfied or whatever the
Yeah. Well, I mean, I hear your point, and that's
take a look.
That is like that's the sticky wicket in choosing how many options you have on a Likert scale, and whenever you have that middle one, there are benefits and drawbacks to it, right? Yep. And the obvious drawback is that people can choose that middle one when they're like, this doesn't apply to me, or I don't really care that much about it, or, fill in the blank, or I really am only somewhat, right? Mm-hmm. I'm somewhat satisfied with this thing, right? So it does breed confusion, so I can commit certainly to going back to the leadership team and talking about it.
Take a look. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And then, I would love to start doing some statistical significance testing on some of the other results, especially areas where it looks like movement. It's like, oh, this looks great. Is this statistically significant that we've made these movements? So, but that might be going too far.
P-values in there.
Yeah, exactly.
I have one thing.
Yeah.
Just going back to Jesse's point about high school maintenance specifically, I think it's also important to note the encouragement between staff and students to not only respect the space that we're given to come and learn every day, which is incredibly impactful, but also just the general respect for the staff that work so hard to keep our spaces clean so that students and staff can come in every day and just keep on with the pace of everything. So that's huge, and it's really encouraging to see as a student that in general we're all respecting this space and we all know what it means to show up to school in a clean environment and what that does to learning and teaching in general. So that's super good.
Love that. Great.
Agreed.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay.
It's ready to shift
Ready
gears?
for next one?
Okay, so hopefully in some of this you will see some of the things that are reflected in that survey come through in some proposed goals. Okay, so to start, the current strategic plan, we have to roll back to the 2018-19 school year. That was the year that the last strategic plan was developed, and then the pandemic came and we shifted to setting annual goals. So it's been quite a while since we engaged in a strategic planning process. So here goes. Let's start with what that process was. Last spring, Jeff articulated a process, and you adopted it, for developing the plan that we, and when I say we, I'm speaking on behalf of the curriculum committee, that we're proposing tonight. Please keep in mind that we are here in between phase 3, drafting the plan, and phase 4, communicating and implementing and measuring the plan, with a goal for board adoption of the plan to allow us to move forward with the work articulated in what I'll be sharing with you this evening. I believe, if I have my facts right, that tonight is about presenting it, and then the vote will be at the next board meeting? Correct. Yeah, okay. Okay, so phase 1 planning. Our strategic planning process began last spring when the district leadership team evaluated where we were in terms of progress towards our existing goals and proposed ideas for the next strategic plan based on work that was already underway in our district. And then Jeff shared these with the curriculum committee last spring, along with the development process, which then was presented to you as a board and adopted at the end of last year. That was phase 1. And then phase 2, we spent most of this year in phase 2. Early this school year, we embarked on gathering the voices, which was really the purpose of phase 2 of the planning process. The curriculum committee began by examining the proposed priority areas and making revisions to refine them. And then we drafted a survey for stakeholders to gather feedback on those proposed priorities. The survey was sent to high school students, parents, community members, and staff for input, and it yielded 719 responses, which was pretty good. The committee reviewed the data that we got from the surveys to identify trends in the responses from our stakeholders. We examined the comments, of which there were many, to better understand what our respondents felt was most important, and also to spotlight things that may have been confusing or ambiguous in the survey. We used the trends and the points of confusion or ambiguity to develop questions to use with focus groups. One of the questions we included in our survey was, would you be interested in participating in a focus group at a later time to share your thoughts and opinions at a deeper level? We had 64 respondents who expressed a desire to participate in that way. And from that list, we created multiple opportunities for stakeholders to join a focus group. We were able to offer parent and community member groups, a staff group, and a couple of student groups too. So each focus group was facilitated by 2 curriculum committee members who followed a script to keep the groups aligned and on track, and each session was voice recorded and then transcribed into text. From there, we analyzed the transcripts, looking for themes in what participants had to say, first within each focus group and then across the focus groups, looking for things that sort of transcended all of the groups. So we were looking for the prevailing sentiments among a broad range of stakeholders, and then really what came up again and again for feedback. Okay, so then we transitioned to phase 3, which was drafting the plan. The curriculum committee applied the feedback from the surveys and the focus groups to our proposed strategic priorities and developed objectives for each priority in keeping with the feedback from our stakeholders. We really tried to keep that feedback at the center of changes we made. And then once these were settled, the plan transitioned back to the district leadership team, where action steps were drafted and a timeline for each step was proposed. Since it's largely the work of administrators to realize the elements of those plans at the school and district levels, it was really helpful to have their direct input into how to achieve the priorities and objectives in the plan. That draft plan was reviewed once more by the curriculum committee in early May, and here we are now. That brings us to this evening, and I'm here now on behalf of the curriculum committee to share the final draft of the proposed strategic plan with you all. Our next step is formal board adoption, if you so choose to do so. And then from there, we'll transition into communicating our plan to all of the stakeholders and beginning the implementation and monitoring process, which is phase 4. And I'll talk about what that looks like a little bit later in the presentation. Okay, so let's hit it. here are the 3 proposed priority areas for the next strategic plan. Before we deep dive into each, a few design parameters to be mindful of. We already have significant work underway in the district. These priorities honor that work and allow us to step forward over the next few years in a thoughtful way that remains focused on the big things that we're already doing. Clear stakeholder feedback indicated that our plan should focus on refining the good things that we're already doing rather than layering on a lot of new initiatives. There's also a clear direction to be fiscally responsible in whatever we prioritize in the coming years, given the cost of adding a new school to the district. The priority areas are intentionally broad. We get more specific with the objectives and even more specific with action steps. So let's break it down. So priority number 1 is one campus, building for now and building for the future. It pertains to the implications of developing a one campus plan for our schools. It focuses on physical space, infrastructure, facilities, and it integrates current initiatives with new elements from stakeholder feedback. Some key themes here included focusing on longevity and maintenance for long-term sustainability and focusing on how facilities support teaching and learning. There was clear feedback that it's not just about facilities, it's about how those facilities support teaching and learning in our schools. Stakeholders said it's not enough to invest in space. We have to consider how we're using that space to maximize teaching and learning. Okay. So the first objective in this priority area is to complete the one campus construction. It's really about the building project. This is obviously work that's in progress and a major component of what we're currently doing in the district. And so the first action step is to finalize things for the successful opening of schools in the fall of 2027. So let's take a closer look at how that will happen. As you can see, the action step is pretty immediate, with a goal of in the coming year of finalizing construction and preparations at each school to ensure a smooth transition to 3 new grade configurations in pre-K through 8 in the fall of 2027. Once we get to 2028, relates to work already underway. The first action step is to finalize the long-term facilities plan, which I know the facilities committee has been working on and I believe is close to being done with. The second step is to prepare for and address the operational needs of our new grade configurations. And the third step is to make sure that we're providing equitable access to all of our shared facilities across the district. So we're going to dig into each one of those individually. So the facilities committee already has a draft plan. I believe it's supposed to be adopted soon, this spring, summer. And with a new director of business services coming on board, we felt it was important to provide a little bit of cushion for implementation of the plan. So that's why it really begins earnestly in year 2. I do think we should bear in mind that the plan will be used from the get-go of adoption to guide infrastructure decision-making, and that plan does extend beyond the life of our strategic plan. So really this is about adopting it and then implementing it. And then action step 1.2.2 is about planning for and meeting the operational needs of the new grade configurations within our schools. So step 2 will be busiest at the start of the strategic plan. There are operational needs that will happen in the coming year as we plan for the addition of our new small school. The work's already happening. It will be finalized next year, and then afterward, we've included an evaluation to assess and adjust as needed. But beyond that, we would expect that this action step will be done before the life of the strategic plan. So here you can see that we'll focus on equitable access to facilities once we open the 3 new grade configurations in the fall of 2027. And then from there, we plan to use the long-term facilities plan to inform our use of facilities and make sure that there's equitable access to the various spaces in our district, especially shared spaces like the GCA, the track, the turf field, the amphitheater, and making sure that we just have fair and equitable use of those spaces. Okay, on to priority number 2. There's a lot in priority number 2, meeting the needs of each learner through a multi-tiered system of supports, MTSS. This one's all about teaching and learning, near and dear to my heart. We're using MTSS as the framework for how we think about meeting the academic, social, emotional, and behavioral needs of students in our district. So there were several themes that presented through our survey and focus groups. You'll see these reflected in the following objectives and action steps. A couple of key points that guided our approach to this priority were feedback that suggested a lean towards refining what we're doing now to be even better, being careful about adding more initiatives, both to make sure we're focused in our work and also fiscally responsible. And then of the ideas on the table for consideration, financial literacy had the most stakeholder interest. Okay, the first objective is to develop and implement the MTSS framework. The feedback that we got, it really clearly indicated a need for good communication about what the framework is all about, and also to refine what we're doing. And so you can see in this timeline here, we have an existing 5-year implementation plan that includes details related to implementation, and that plan was designed to sunset at the time that this strategic plan sunsets. We're currently in year 1 of phase 1 of the MTSS plan, and I did link that in, but it occurs to me that Melissa sent you a PDF, so you probably can't click on that link, right? So if you want to see it, I can get it to you. So you can see that the action step timeline reflects the implementation of that plan, and that was by design. When we developed the MTSS plan, we knew we would be embarking on a new strategic plan, and so we timed things to happen accordingly. So next year we complete phase 1 of the plan. 27, 28, and 28, 29 are the 2 phase 2 years, and then the last year of the strategic plan is the last year of the MTSS plan. And then objective 2.2 continues our work implementing CKLA and our writing scope and sequence. And this too includes a nod to the typical implementation timeline for new programs, which is usually a 3-year implementation cycle. So we're currently in year 1, next year will be year 2, 27, 28 will be year 3, and then we'll really be able to reflect and evaluate our programmatic decisions using student data and staff feedback. That's not to say that we're not already doing that and doing it all along the way, but we can really hone in on how's that going for us. Objective 2.3 is to prepare for new grade configurations in the 3 new schools, Carolyn F. Small, MIW, and GMS. And so this objective is about the programmatic opportunities and decisions related to envisioning and realizing our new grade configurations. So in the previous priority area, you saw something about grade configurations, and that was about operations, operational needs for the schools. This is about programmatic opportunities. So next year, as you know, we have transition committees working on all things grade configuration related. We will allocate a fair amount of professional development time to this work so that staff in the new configurations can do the work to close the existing schools as they currently exist and prepare to open new ones. And then year 2 of the plan acknowledges the need that the opening of new configurations is not a moment, but a series of moments. And so year 3 then includes reflection and refinement. Hopefully by year 4 of the plan, we should be smooth sailing with established routines. Okay. So objective 2.4 is to create and implement an early childhood education plan that meets state requirements. This is already underway, as you know, with the board's Early Childhood Education Committee developing a plan. Depending on the recommendations that that committee makes this spring, I would predict some flexibility in the timeline here. This is a projected timeline, but we are obligated by law to implement whatever plan is adopted for 3- and 4-year-olds with IEPs beginning in the fall of 2027. So you can see that's where the implementation begins. It's still up in the air what that's going to look like, and I think that's okay, but once we know what the committee recommends and you all adopt as a board, we'll get to work on implementing it. Thanks for hanging in there with me. Okay, so objective 2.5 is to explore opportunities to integrate real-world skills into our existing curriculum, and there are 2 action steps here. This objective is the one clear nod you will see in the plan to something new. Our survey and focus groups were really clear that financial literacy should be an area we develop in the next strategic plan. And there was also strong feedback that we should not let the strategic plan, this next strategic plan, pass us by without at least attending to the idea of offering world languages to younger students. So here's what embedding financial literacy skills into the existing curriculum will look like. This timeline begins with an analysis of the standards and assessment of where financial literacy is already taught in our curriculum. It's actually already taught in a lot of different places in our curriculum, so really analyzing that. In year 2, consciously determining what needs to be added in alignment with the main learning results standards. And then in year 3, develop additional programming to meet those requirements with full implementation in year 4. It is worth noting that this is work already underway, so that timeline could be a little squishy, right? We could work a little faster with that potentially. Okay, so studying the feasibility of adding world languages at the elementary level. This is the only truly new initiative in the plan. We will not begin this work until our new schools are open to allow the dust to settle with our new configurations. In the 3rd year of the plan, we'll research best practices in world language instruction for elementary students, and then in year 4, we'll assess our opportunities for this type of programming with an eye towards the next strategic plan for potential implementation. The curriculum committee felt strongly that we should not allow the strategic plan to pass us by without at least exploring this idea and beginning the process. And so knowing that any curriculum initiative is a big undertaking, we were cautious and felt it was best to use this plan to get things started rather than committing to full implementation in the next 5 years. And so objective 2.6 is to develop and implement an instructional technology plan for pre-K through 12. You heard the gentleman speaking at public comment earlier. I hope you like this one. So objective 6 under MTSS involves developing and implementing an instructional technology plan for the district. Currently, we have several converging influences driving this addition to the strategic plan. State statute that requires a bell-to-bell smart device policy beginning in the next school year. The incongruity of the bring your own learning device practice that we have in place while that policy takes effect. Emerging literacy on the impact of one-to-one technology, especially for our earliest learners. And emerging literature on the impact of educational technology on student learning. So we're not saying technology has to go away, we're saying we need to be planful about that. And so let's develop a thoughtful education-based plan. So what will that look like? Here you can see the timeline we're envisioning, with the first priority being adoption of the cell phone smart device policy JICJ in keeping with state law. From there, we need to evaluate all of our tech approaches relative to best practices. That will all happen in the next year. And then in year 2, we'll use the evaluation findings to develop a plan for instructional technology use across the schools. Implementation will most likely take more than 1 year and may bleed into the next strategic plan. These things take time to change, but it gets the ball rolling and it crafts a thoughtful plan. I think it's important to say that the driver behind the new technology plan will be learning. Devices and software investments will be secondary to the focus on learning. In other words, we will advocate for hardware and software based on what's developmentally appropriate for learners at different levels and what has proven to be effective in supporting and promoting learning. The focus needs to be on learning and what's good for kids. Okay. Third priority is one community connected and thriving within and beyond school walls. So this one is all about belonging. There was crystal clear consensus that we should focus this priority on promoting a sense of belonging in our schools for staff and students, a sense of welcome in our schools for families in the community, and that these, more than anything else, would support the non-negotiable safety we need for students to thrive in school. So objective 3.1 is all about enhancing belonging, safety, and supporting students and staff. So this, we know that attending to our community helps with attendance. So these two ideas are kind of blended together, belonging and also attending to attendance. Okay. Again, this is work we're already doing in the schools. You've heard me yap about attendance before. The action step and timeline are really oriented towards working smarter, not harder. We will identify and develop our Tier 1 practices that promote belonging and positive attendance. We'll monitor and refine those practices to make sure we're achieving our desired outcomes. And then the timeline suggests the action step will be done by year 3 of the plan, but that work is never actually truly done. We're always paying attention to these things. Okay, and so objective 3.2 is about staff hiring, onboarding, mentorship, professional development, and retention. Part of ensuring that the sense of community and belonging is to promote this. And again, work already in progress in the district, but needs to continue. So the first action step for this objective focuses on evaluating our existing practices, looking for opportunities to make positive improvements to those practices, implementing them, and then reevaluating to see progress specific to the hiring and onboarding practices for all staff groups. And then refining first-year mentorship and professional development for all staff groups. It's similar in process, but focuses on refining our mentoring program and our professional development approach. So you saw some weaker satisfaction numbers in staff related to their professional development. This speaks to that in the survey. We're already doing a number of things differently in this area, and we'll continue to develop and implement new practices intentionally over the life of the strategic plan. Some things that we're already doing, just so you're aware. Annual mentor training. I give training on an annual basis now at the end of the school year so that we can have strong matches between mentors and mentees. Offering dine and discuss opportunities for professional development that are optional, self-directed professional development, professional learning grants where teachers write a grant and get paid for exploring something new of interest to them. And we have an ed tech professional development series that Carla Fancy runs throughout the year that has had positive feedback. So those are some things we're already doing and we'll continue to develop. Okay, so objective 3.3 is to foster strong community engagement to support instructional excellence and student learning. And this includes cultivating community pride and expanding opportunities for students to connect their learning with the broader community. It was created in response to feedback from stakeholders that there are many people in our community who would like to be connected to our schools in meaningful, supportive ways who don't know how to go about doing that. The action step you see under the objective aims to build that spirit of collaboration with the larger community while maintaining focus on our core mission, which is right behind your heads there. So first is to communicate what our offerings are for students and the collaborations that exist already. We're going to use the first year to establish outward communication about what's happening in our schools through a centralized website. What we learned is that many of our things are there, but they're disconnected. So really centralizing it to show what our unique programming opportunities are for students, including things like IB, Pathways, Broad Cove Academy, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Year 2 will be spent engaging our community partners to assess the community resources available and create a database of those resources that can be used to match with school programs. Ideally, we'll be able to implement use of this resource and then make matches by year 3 of the plan so that teachers can go to that database and say, I have this idea for social studies. Oh, I think I'm going to reach out to Carolyn Small and get connected with the Historical Society, just as an example, because she was here earlier. But there are many other resources in our community that we can loop into that. Okay, so that is all of the priorities and objectives and action steps that we have. So where are we headed next? Assuming that the board chooses to adopt this strategic plan, our next step is to move forward into phase 4, communicating, implementing, and measuring the plan. So what does that look like? So first, we begin by communicating the plan widely. This means spending time with staff at the district opening of schools, overviewing the new plan. That would be Jeff giving the mile-high view to all staff. Then we spend time at the building level, examining the plan and making meaning of it within each individual context. So what does each goal area, objective and action step look and feel like at GMS 4.5, for example? How does it fit into the landscape of Greeley High School's work? These discussions are led by administrators and linked to their site improvement plans, development, and goals. Then we also need to communicate with our parents and community members through regular district updates. Often Jeff includes deep dives into things that are going on in the district in his weekly newsletter, and so I'm envisioning that continuing, that he'll highlight each priority area in regular updates to the community. We'll also develop an executive summary for the community that can be shared widely so that anyone interested in knowing what we're focusing our work on through the next plan can access a quick synopsis. And then this graphic becomes the face of the strategic plan in that executive summary, and hopefully becomes a visual marker for all stakeholders to understand what our 3 priority areas are in the plan, and then they have an opportunity to dive deeper. And of course, our strategic plan is always available on our website for people who want to do a deep dive. Okay, we're getting there. Okay, so the monitoring cycle. So many of the action steps in the plan used this approach that you see here to monitoring progress for each action step, and the overall plan follows that process too. And so it's important to note that there's flexibility within those timelines and entry points and exit points in the plan, and that was by design. Things can and will happen along the way that influence the speed at which each action step is achieved, and so we just need to be continually monitoring where we are in the plan. Some action steps are already underway, so the entry point is different for those than things that are intentionally situated later in the plan, and that just allows folks in the schools to focus their work and really hone in on what they're working on now and not be having too many priorities at one time. And then within this larger cycle, there are pit stops along the way, like stopping for gas on a road trip. The pit stops are reflection points orchestrated twice a year to help us stay on track with our timeline, remember to reflect, and remember to reset when progress is lagging, and don't wait until the end of the plan to think about our progress. So regular reflection points. Those pit stops will be reported by Jeff to you, the board, each January and June. to keep you apprised of progress of the plan formally at board meetings. So this is a quote I stole from Jeff's presentation from last spring that articulated the strategic planning process when he presented to you. And I want to bring it back now because I think it really summarizes what we've been doing in our work this year. It's been a while since we've done a strategic plan, and the pandemic really put a pin in many things, strategic planning process among them. But I'm excited to have this potential blueprint as our guide for work over the next few years. It will help us maintain deep focus on our work that's already in progress, thoughtfully refine our practices, and layer in a few more initiatives that are mindful of our mission to guide all students to develop an enthusiasm for learning, assume responsibility for their education, achieve academic excellence, and discover and reach their personal best. So before I end, I want to say thank you. I'm going to take a moment to thank the folks who really helped get to this point. Curriculum Committee, you can see their names there, Annika, Kim, Sarah Wise, and Oakley Kandura. Thank you for your ongoing work throughout the year, and especially when it came time to facilitate the focus groups. Each member, students included, took responsibility for doing that, and it was a big job to pull off, and I'm grateful that everybody stepped up. Thank you to the folks in the community who took time to complete the survey, and especially to the folks who took time out of their busy lives to come and participate in focus groups. Without that input, we would not have been able to refine our goals and objectives in a manner that reflects the community ethos. And then thank you to the district leadership team, without whom the action steps would not have been as clear and aligned to the goals and objectives. They really did make it better. So with that, questions?
Thank you. I know this has been, you've been up there standing for a long time.
I forgot my water.
Do you have some? Do you need
No,
to
I
grab
don't.
It?
It's fine.
I was like,
It's
I'm
fine.
out too, so. So yes, as a reminder, like we're reviewing this tonight. It is on the board agenda as an item for action in 2 weeks. And is this also going to be made available if other people in the community have questions? I mean, obviously you can watch the recording, but we'll have a draft available between now and when we vote on it.
I can
as
talk
well.
to Melissa about how to make that happen.
Just making available. So yes, this is our opportunity to discuss and ask questions as a board, but we don't vote to adopt until 2 weeks from now. And yeah, thank you. And the whole slide that you just had before to recognize all the work that went into this. I mean, it's been a long time coming, given that the last time we went through this process was that 8 years ago? So thank you. So I'll open it up for questions.
Well, I've obviously been very involved in this process, so I don't have any questions, but there is a name missing from that thank you list, which is yours, Mari.
I was like, oh no, I forgot.
No, just yours, just yours. You put so much work into this, and I really wanted to appreciate you for that. And thank you for appreciating everyone else. That was on my list of things to do as well. But
Thank you.
thank you.
I'm very excited to see that there'll be a focus on the evaluation of technology in the classrooms. I'm very interested, and I hear that in the community too. That's I think on a lot of people's minds. I was curious to hear your comment that the focus will be on learning and what's good for kids. And it was in my mind, like, of course. What else would the focus be on?
Well, I think technology is such a loaded thing, and there are, for every argument there's a counter argument. And what I would really like for us to do, this is me, Mari, talking, not anybody else, an opinion statement. I would like for us to really attend to what the emerging literature is telling us about the impact of technology on learners and their ability to learn. And I'm not saying technology is a bad thing. I think there's a time and a place for it. And when we introduce it and how we introduce it matters. So for example, there's some literature out there that suggests that a lot of educational technology, so some of the software programs that students can use, are gamified. And that's not great for kids. It's not necessarily value added. And so I want us to evaluate the things that we use and the things that we might use through the lens of, is this the best way for our students to learn what we want them to learn? And if it is, let's pay the check, right? Let's buy it. But if there are other better ways for our students to be learning, let's be mindful of that. So really, that's all I meant by that.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
Great question.
Thank you.
I just want to piggyback on that technology thing. I think there was, within the last 3 to 4 months, there was a hearing at Congress, and there's a good C-SPAN thing. Yes, I watch C-SPAN. I'm that boring. I know. And there was excellent speakers on that. And you just hit the nail on the head, almost everything they said. I mean, test scores, since technology has been introduced in schools, has only declined, for the most part, on average. So and a lot of times with technology, we have to find fixes so technology works instead of it working for us. So I really appreciate that that's in here. I have one question that came up during the presentation. I saw the headers at the bottom, all the different staff and how those play in. I didn't know how that got aggregated, if we thought about how all of those goals impact each individual group that you got listed, and if we feel like we have the resources to attend to all these goals based on those.
Do you mean the responsible parties?
Yes.
So, sorry, I should have articulated that. Thank you for asking that question. So those are the folks who are primarily responsible for that component of the plan and making sure that it happens. So for example, this one, communicating the learning opportunities, partnerships, collaborations, and create meaningful opportunities for families and community members to help support the mission of the district. Superintendent has to be involved in that, the district leadership team. I have a role in that, right? And the communications committee presumably might have a role in that. So some of this is a little speculative, but then there are other areas you might see the director of finance and operations in the first priority area to get the buildings built, right? And then, I might have more of a role in the priority area number 2 that's really more about teaching and learning, curriculum, assessment, instruction. So it's really just identifying who the primary responsible parties are for making sure that we're doing that work. Did that answer your question?
I would rephrase my question.
Okay.
Do we feel like we have the resources to complete these based on who you think the responsible parties are currently, or do you think we need to allocate different resources to accomplish these strategic goals versus what our goals have been in the past?
Okay. I think in some cases we have the resources we need, and then in other cases, maybe not. But regardless, if it's a goal, we're going to work it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's a great question. I just know in years past, and Kim can probably attest to this more than I can as finance chair, like how important the decisions around what finance was putting forward, especially as any like new initiatives that we were going to go out and ask support of, that it was directly tied back to the district's strategic priorities. And yeah, the past few years have been a little harder because we hadn't updated the process, and being really excited about like being able to move forward knowing that we've just kind of reset, and to be able to explain the decision making, especially when we're going forward with new recommendations. So it's been really important.
Yeah, I'll just say that, so yes, correct. And the development of this plan, remember, was really intentional to minimize the amount of new. And so the new thing in here is the examination of where might world languages fit, right? Almost everything else is already underway. The development of the technology plan is new, but can be managed internally with our existing resources. And then there might be down the road some recommendations about, you know, how things play out related to that plan. But again, that's a little bit down the road. So are there fiscal implications? Maybe, but much of this plan can be worked with existing resources. I truly believe that.
Okay. There's one thing that was on my mind throughout this presentation, especially the first section that was talking about facilities and the plans for shifting grade configurations. And obviously there's a distinct focus on the pre-K to 8th grade because those are like physical moves of buildings and whatnot. I don't want to get lost in that, the changes that are going to be going on at the high school. And of course, the Principal Francis was here. He had to leave for the IB ceremony. But I just want to make sure that people understand the increase in enrollment that we expect over the next 5 years at our high school. And while that's not directly reflected in this now, but we may want to think about how to work it in, because I don't want people to be surprised over the next few years when we need to start adding back in those positions at the high school that have not been replaced over the years. The numbers of students, this bubble that's coming through, the grades that have been in those portables are now moving up through the middle school are going to be in our high school. And this conversation has happened when we are planning out the new buildings, and multiple times we're like, but can our high school accommodate this? And the good answer is physical space, yes. It can. It has before. Our district has been larger. But that doesn't account for the teachers then that you need to accommodate those students. And I just don't, I'm afraid, being on this board for now 4 years, that these are just things that we need to repeat every year for people to understand that those kids are coming to the high school. While it's not luckily a space thing, we can accommodate them. It will be a staff not challenge. We know how to deal with it, but it is a recognition that we will have. The projections are about 25% increase over the next 6 years for the high school as far as student enrollment.
Right.
So,
you have to have personnel to teach them.
Yeah, we have the space, we just need the people. So I don't know if it makes sense to, in my mind, it makes sense to figure out where that's at least accounted for, because we focus so heavily on talking about, the K through 8 because it's a physical building change. But when we're thinking about from a finance and planning perspective for their annual budgets, that will be coming back to the board as those students start to move into the high school. And in addition, we know that over the past few years, over the summer, the numbers of new families that are coming into our district have typically now been in the middle years and maybe even the high school.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to make sure that we keep that in mind.
Okay. I can talk to Jeff about where he thinks that might fit within this plan too.
Okay.
Well, it does, to me, it's the strategic priority too, the multi-tiered systems of support, because if we're meeting the needs of each learner, by definition, that has to do with class size and what support staff are needed and all of that. So maybe it can be specified a little bit more, but it is kind of that organic. If we're going to be able to provide what every student needs, that includes staff.
That's true.
So.
Right, I think it's a question of, do you want it to be implicit or explicitly stated, right?
Got a question about, action step 3.3.1, the learning opportunities, partnerships, collaborations. So I know along the timeline we had consulting with partners. I'm sure this will be in there, but I think consulting with current teachers, because there's a ton of partnerships that are already happening, and I think that oftentimes they're happening just organically because somebody knows somebody or hears about something. And so, I think we need to be reaching out to community resources, but also figuring out
what's happening in
National Honor Society, is going to be coming to the orchard and helping us get the community orchard going, and the 4th grade's coming to learn about pollinators. So it's
right.
Somebody made that connection at the school, and I was like, yes, please come to the community resource, and I will, we will make resources available to do educational things. And so I'm sure there are tons of things like that where teachers have just found a community resource and made that connection, and I want to make sure we're surveying the teachers or getting them to tell us about those things and finding additional partners in the community who are an untapped resource who that connection hasn't been made. Because, yeah, I think our community has like a lot of incredible resources, and some are getting utilized because people have made those connections and some haven't. So, I mean, I think it's really exciting that that's on the strategic plan. I don't want to miss the things that people have already made happen.
Totally, and so that again isn't explicitly stated here, but that is so much easier for building administrators to gather, and that part of the database is actually really easy. It's the understanding all of the available options out in our community that's a lot harder. So yes, that is part of the process. It's about identifying what are the things that already exist. Let's have that articulated. What are the opportunities in curriculum? What are the resources in the community?
Okay.
That's the challenge. This is a big action
Yeah,
step.
it's super exciting. I'm really glad this is in the strategic plan.
I totally agree. Yeah, and that was the other note, like life outside the district, and I meant that in the point that you made is that we're not separate. We're not separate from the communities that we sit, and yeah, not only is it making those connections with individuals, I think it's two ways, and I don't know, it probably wouldn't be listed on the slide, but also to make sure that the community feels like the district is part of, to welcome community members to our sporting events, to our shows, other ways to feel connected with this part of our community. So I think that's great. Other questions? Okay.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for tolerating me for
Oh,
however long that was.
It was a pleasure. Thank you. Now you can maybe go hydrate.
Put your feet up.
Okay. All right, now we get to move into items for action. We have quite a list this evening. Okay, can I get a motion to approve the lease agreement for Twinbrook?
So moved.
Thank you, Jesse. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you, Kim. Would you like to present this, Scott?
Sure. 25 years ago, okay, when the district, I'll give you the history. So when the district acquired state funding for the new Greeley Middle School, one of the things that happened during that construction was the displacement of a number of fields on the campus. So the town of Cumberland came forth and actually offered us an opportunity, because we had difficulty finding property locally near the school campus, came forth, and they had a section of property which the district couldn't buy because of covenants that were related to the lease, to the property that was acquired by the town. But the opportunity was there that we were able to enter into a lease with the town of Cumberland at the time at no cost, and it was a lease that would renew itself every 10 years, because a maximum lease that a district can enter into is 10 years. And so that was ongoing. We built the fields down on the Twin Brooks side, on the Greeley Road side, and so that's kind of the history of how that happened. We invested into the fields. The town had the property in which they were able to lease to us. So the lease in front of you is just an update of that particular lease with some changes which actually define the area more in Exhibit A. And so you now have an Exhibit A that really defines what the field areas are and what the future area of the field area might be, forward of that, where you've heard Pete Bingham.
To approve the interlocal agreement for a vehicle garage facility agreement.
So moved.
Thank you, Lauren. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you, Sean. Can you present this, please, Scott?
I will, yes. Okay, so this is another collaborative agreement with the town of Cumberland. When the Public Works garage was being planned and built down off of, down where the school site was, and we had a small garage facility which we had outgrown, the old metal building that was down there. We could get one bus in there, and work on it. There was no lifts. It was actually very, very difficult for us to work on. So the town of Cumberland, when they built this new facility, there was a section of it that we were able to lease for $160,000 a year. And the intent of the lease agreement was that the district would share in the portion of debt for a period of time that the town of Cumberland had to enter into for a section of that building. And so this now provides us with a section of the building which we have a lift, we can get several several buses in, provides office area for our director and our assistant director. But the largest thing that we've gotten out of this, and the biggest piece, is a collaboration between the town and the school for mechanic work on vehicles. So whether it be the police cruisers, the public works vehicles, or the buses, there's a collaboration that goes on down in that garage, all being together, right? We also gained a bus wash. So there's a vehicle wash down there, which it helps in the wintertime as well, because it'll blow all the snow off the buses. But it also provides us with the opportunity to be able to keep the vehicles clean, and so we participate in that. There's maintenance part on this that we haven't really spent a lot in terms of the maintenance on the facility. We invested into the vehicle wash with the town of Cumberland. And because we do other exchanges of services, we also haven't paid any of the utilities because we provide other services and do things. So there's another continuing collaboration, but if those collaborations or some of those other services didn't continue, there is built in here that we would share in operating costs, and we would share in some of the maintenance costs of the facility, and we would do that anyway. So
great. Well, thank you. I know to get these written agreements in place have been really important before your retirement.
Yeah, I've been a little lax on this one, and we've been in there 3 or 4 years now. So
yeah.
So it's Chris Bolduc and I have been working on this, and again, they've been reviewed by legal counsel, and so.
Well, and it's just been so great to have a collaboration with especially the town which we reside. So we're very fortunate. Questions, comments? Okay. Hearing none. All in favor? Okay, it's unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now we just got to keep it up. All right, now we're going to move into policy. Can I have a motion to approve policies KLG relations with law enforcement authorities and KLG AR relations with law enforcement authorities administrative procedures as presented?
So moved.
Thank you, Jesse. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you, Megan. Jesse, would you like to present this policy again?
So second read on this. I didn't get any comments between first read and now. Some minor changes, tightening up language in KLG. We refer to the district's comprehensive emergency management instead of crisis response plan, because we call it a comprehensive emergency management plan. Some other small tweaks in language about law enforcement presenting a lawfully issued judicial warrant. And then policy KLGAR is the administrative procedures, and again, tightening up language in there to define a warrant, some language about complying with applicable laws and police department procedures, and then striking a few sentences.
Right.
But the policy remains largely the same, but
Okay.
tightening a few things up.
Great. Any questions? Again, this is nice partnership with our town of Cumberland to have this agreement.
Yep.
So, okay, all in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you. Okay, so now we're going to move. The next item for action is a section with a number of administrative positions. And before we have each one as a separate vote, but I'm just hoping, Scott, I know there's been some questions about administrative positions, especially like what's our process for
You mean professional positions?
professional.
Yeah.
Did I
And,
say administrative?
Yes. So
Professional.
these are not all administrators.
They are not all. They're not all administrators. But before we move
Sure.
through each one, if you want to just go through like our hiring process for staff
glad to
that
do that.
leave versus new budgeted staff, like what's our
Sure,
process?
be glad to talk about
Thank
that. And
you.
we can take all of these as one vote, motion, or as presented, or you can do them individually if you'd like.
I think I'll have to see if
so-
somebody wants to make a motion.
Have a thought.
Okay, so, so what this is the district, as existing positions become open during the year. So these are positions that aren't new to the budget. These are positions that are vacated during the course of the year. The superintendent actually scrutinizes each one of those positions that becomes available with the building administrators and determines if, it should be filled. And so throughout the year, you'll see us filling those positions that are just vacated positions. New positions in the budget are advertised in April, which are additional positions which are part of the new budget. So as we're developing our budget, in April the board adopts the budget. Once that budget has been adopted by the board, any new positions that are in that budget are advertised in April, following the board adopting that. And that this basically ensures that the district is in the pool or the hunt for staffing at the time where other districts are actually advertising. So that's why we do this in April, is because we want to get the most qualified candidates for the positions, as other districts are also advertising. And so that's what this is, and how our hiring process works. So that's how it works every year.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so the positions tonight are a combination of positions that staff had vacated that we're rehiring for. And then one of them was indicated in the district approved budget. And there's a few other positions that are still in the hiring process.
Yeah, we actually have some at the middle school that actually were just finished today, and will be on the next board
They'll be
agenda.
on the next board
They'll be
agenda.
on the
Thank
next
you
board
for,
agenda, yes.
I know, I had questions last week about the process. I've had other board members with questions this week. So before we move through this.
It's the same process we use every year.
Okay, thank you, that's helpful. Can I get a motion?
I'd like to make a motion.
Go for it.
I move that we approve the two GHS .6 FTE English teachers, the GHS Social Studies teacher, and the GMS 6.8 Social Studies teacher as presented.
Did you say science?
Science.
Did I?
This first one?
Oh, right, it says social studies.
Is that a
but
question? The GHS science, I didn't see that one
I
in the
didn't,
list
I don't
of.
see it in here.
If you
Yeah.
open,
not
if
in
you
here.
open the document,
It's not in
it's
here.
labeled social studies, but the actual hiring is for science. So it's just a mislabeling.
Okay.
Yeah,
got it.
Oh,
on my
thank
blue
you.
on my blue notes, it's science.
Got it.
Yes.
Got it.
Yeah. Okay, so it's the science
Do you,
position.
do you want to just say it again?
Okay, I move to approve the professional positions, GHS Science, GHS .6 English, GHS .6 English, GMS 6.8 Social Studies, and that's it. Yes.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you, Jesse. All right, so then we're putting these up for questions or comments.
I had a question about the science teacher.
Yep.
So I was pleased to note that, we often hire people with a ton of experience, that this was somebody with less experience. And I don't know, Scott, if you were on the interview committee or, because I know I'd mentioned in the past, it would be great if we could hire people younger in their careers and mentor them to be great teachers here at Greeley. And that seems like that's about to happen with the science teacher. And so I don't know if anybody firsthand interviewed him, because I'd love to hear what made him stand out from other candidates who I'm sure were much more qualified and more expensive. So
I was
like he's a
not
superstar.
part of that process, but I know that when I spoke with Jeff, he spoke very highly of this candidate, as did Carl Francis. So
Yeah, I'm excited that we're hiring younger people who cost less, but also maybe
Yes.
bring some energy, and we can mentor
Be
in the
around for a
Greeley
while.
way. So
Well,
I was stoked to see
yeah,
that.
especially when there were 15 applications,
Yeah,
and there
that's
were
what I'm
5
saying.
candidates who we interviewed. So
Yeah, well, maybe we can
Yeah.
ask Jeff at the next school board meeting, because he seemed like a standout candidate. And
Yeah, I noticed that as well. And I also noticed a position where we had 37 people who applied.
wow,
It's quite the pool that we've had to choose from for these positions. Any other questions or comments about the positions?
I feel like since Jeff's not here, I'm just going to say a statement. I feel like he said a lot is we don't hire based on necessarily experience or how much it's going to cost us. We base it on the best candidate for the job.
candidate.
So I love the comment. I just wanted to say that because I feel like
No, yeah, I didn't think we hired him because he was cheap. I think we hired him because he was a superstar, and I wanted to hear about why he was.
Thank you.
So,
Great. Any other questions or comments? All in favor? Okay. Unanimous? Okay. Can I have another motion? Does somebody want to put another motion forward? Do we have 2 left on the list?
I'll go.
Okay.
I move to approve the position of GHS Assistant Principal as presented.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you, Jesse. All right. So we had an opening for an assistant principal at the high school. And I believe, Annika, you were on the second interview committee?
I was.
Is there, I guess, anything that you would want to share?
So I was part of the interview committee for the second round. I think we had 2 really great candidates who participated in that process, and I fully agree with the recommendation that Jeff has passed along to us for this evening. Not sure that I have much more to say, but if people have specific questions, I'm happy to try to answer.
Yeah, and we had a nice letter that was included to us about the particular candidate, and yeah, that he was named the assistant principal of the year in 2025. So, go ahead.
Is the job description posted somewhere publicly?
It should have been posted when we hired. Do you mean, is it still
Oh,
posted?
or on our website? Is that somewhere?
I'll take a look. I don't think it's on our website. We have our HR, our HR handbook,
Right.
and I think it's part of that.
Okay.
But if anybody wants a job description on that, I'm sure we could provide that.
So the reason I ask, this is personal. 2 weeks ago at our district budget meeting, to answer a community question regarding the hiring of the assistant principal, I fumbled the ball. And so, Dawn, I'm glad you're here because I want to apologize to you for making it sound like all you did was chase down students smoking in the boys' room. So if you'll allow me, because if this document is not available to everybody, I want to read publicly the responsibilities that you currently have, as well as what we're hiring this person for. Assigned school department supervision and direction, including Broad Cove Academy and student services. Comprehensive student support, grades 9 through 12. Monitoring and enforcement of attendance. 504 plan coordination and management. MTSS student support team coordinator support. Safety drills and planning. Matrix course schedule. Assigned district committees. 8th grade transition coordination. Transportation and parking. Career and technical education liaison. Before and after school supervision. District leadership team. Member of the instructional leadership team for the high school. Facilitator and operational leadership team of the operational leadership team. Extracurricular supervision as requested. Teacher evaluation and supervision. Development and enforcement of the GHS student handbook. Staff professional development. Development and enforcement of school-wide process and protocol. Summer credit recovery programs. And anyway, that's a very long list. And it just demonstrates why 2 assistant principals are necessary.
And yeah, and to touch base on the enrollment thing that we also mentioned, our high school is continuing
enrollment.
to have more students.
Exactly.
I did serve on that second interview.
Oh, you did? Oh, anything else to add?
Great candidates, both of them, and this particular individual is a high-quality candidate for the high school.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Thank you. I mean,
absolutely.
to see that we had 15 applications, I know serving in school leadership is just challenging to find people for, and that we had 15 people apply. I was happy that we had a good pool to choose from and an excellent candidate.
Can we get some, understanding and definition as to why we need two?
You're not mic'd, so we're not actually asking you to answer that question because nobody else would be able to hear it. We can.
Perhaps to clarify, what I just read,
Yeah.
is that the same as the second
They do.
assistant principal?
My understanding is that there's student more. What's the word? Academic support for students.
Yeah, and you also have, the other assistant principal is also responsible for guidance services and those types of activities as well. So there's definitely a segregation of duties between those positions.
Yes.
Yeah,
So
and this
was
one's specifically
person.
mentioning Broad Cove Academy, for example, so there is division
So there's
within
definitely a
those.
difference.
I think when we added the second administrator in that building, that's when the clear division.
That's when the clear division happened, and it is, definitely enrollment as well.
Yeah, and how long have we had the two?
How many years, Dawn? 4, thank you.
Okay, 4 years, thank you. John?
Since we do have a subject matter expert here, I would love to hear his opinion, if you wouldn't mind. Because I think you might be able to better answer
if you
the
talk,
question.
just go to the mic. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll keep it short. We have a lot of responsibilities that are separate, as you read off, but there's a lot of also, there's some overlap. Like, we're working with students, we share that responsibility. When we're doing investigations, we share that responsibility. So some of what you read, some of those things Jackie and I share together. We both work on those things, but then there's also some separate things that we do, and you listed a lot of those, and there's some separate things that she works on as well.
So I presume there are things that would be in Jackie's roles.
Yeah, there are some things that
job
she does.
description that you
She really
also-
supports student services and really works with our guidance department, much more so than I do. There's times that I do, but in general, I oversee the BCA Broad Cove, and she works with the guidance department like in a larger capacity. Although she can also help out with BCA sometimes, but we just have different priorities, I guess. Yep.
Great. Other. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure he wasn't talking in the audience because nobody here.
Thank you.
Okay. Other questions?
Sarah, does that answer your question?
I don't know. I'm struggling with the second position, and I know it's not a new second position, but it's a time when we can review the second position in my mind. And I guess I don't have my data in front of me about when coming the heavy increase in enrollment at between GMS and GHS. And I realize this is already hired, this is already approved, these are all, so.
And we know those discussions are always on the table, but yeah, we do have a candidate in front of us.
Right.
And I always like your question. Thank you. Any?
I think it's fair to echo a little bit of what Sarah said, because I think it's important to understand, is this redundancy or is this an absolute need? I mean, this is a time in our community where a budget did not pass, in North Yarmouth, and Cumberland carried it, right, over the last year. So I think.
Twice.
Correct. Yes, I didn't, yes.
No. The school, that year, when they said no on the school, the budget did pass in North Yarmouth.
Yes. Right. So, thank you for the correction. So I think it's important to bring up, and I think it got discussed at the Finance Committee in length. It is definitely it was a topic of much discussion, and likely, so.
I appreciate that recognition. Okay. Yes, you have to go up there, though.
I can't recall everything, but what I can tell you is there was some consolidation of some positions when that position was created. We had a half-a-time dean of students at the time that was helping out with a lot of that discipline. We had a person that was just doing guidance direction at that time. So there was so those positions were consolidated into another, assistant principal position. So if we don't have that position, then we're going to have to create something else, because even before the increase in enrollment, we had some other supports there to accomplish what needed to be accomplished, and it still wasn't quite enough. So
So there were dollars. There were dollars in other places.
Absolutely.
That.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
That's a great reminder, Don, because
I don't
that
remember
was
it all,
one of the
but there was.
things.
I know those
Yeah.
two. I know those two things.
Yeah.
I do recall that.
Great reminder, because I remember those during the budget process when we were doing that.
So yeah, it wasn't just all new dollars being put into the second principal position. That dollars were taken from other supporting areas to cover at least a portion of that position.
And I'm looking at the budget brochure, because that was easy to pull up, the projected 26-27 enrollment. And next year, our sophomore class is at 180. Our current senior class, I know this because I have a senior, is 153. And the incoming freshman will be 169. So right there, with a
10 to 15
senior class
students.
moving out, we have a freshman class that is
Yeah.
16.
Yeah.
Did I
Each
say? Yeah.
class moving in.
Yeah,
right, is
and then the
bigger.
year after that, it's 173 eighth graders.
Yeah.
So we are definitely looking at big numbers.
And I just want to reiterate that I have full support of administration and teachers and students, and I'm hearing overwhelmingly from my community that there's struggles to pay, and there's huge concerns for the coming years. And my view is we need to watch every single penny, and we need to validate every single penny, and everyone needs to really feel good about it, because it's a lot of pennies.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, Sarah. And that's why I know you and I have talked over years, like, let's how early in the process that we address any of these issues. And so that's why we're backing up our finance meetings next year to start even earlier and be even more broader, to make sure that we continue to evaluate. And thank you for, Sean, reminding of how much of the conversation also happened in finance.
And I just want to add one more thing. I think it's tough in a time like this, just as a community as a whole, the state, the country, that expectations may not align with purse strings, right? So as much as that conversation is really tough, expectations have to align with purse strings, because at the end of the day, that's what we got to spend. So I just, over the next year, that's something that keeps going through my head, is our expectations might be here, but our purse strings might be down here. And a lot of times they're close, but I don't think they're that close right now. So it's not gonna be easy.
And we're not unique district in those conversations. So, yeah. Any other questions on this position? All in favor? All opposed? Sarah. Okay, we have one more. I can say it because I don't know which it is. Can I have a motion to approve the pre-K coordinator position as presented?
So moved.
Thank you, Lauren. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you, Jesse. So this position in particular, I know I had questions about the timing. I know other board members had questions about the timing. That was part of why I asked to review, the process of like, remind me why this is coming up now. And it is that any position that was in the district approved budget gets posted. And then it goes through the process. There was, as we mentioned, 2 other positions at the middle school that are also working through the hiring process. They weren't as far along, probably more people involved.
Yeah, they
harder
weren't
to
ready for the
schedule.
meeting tonight. but
Weren't ready for the
they'll be
meeting
ready for the next
tonight.
one.
I know there's been a lot of questions about this particular position. especially as we're looking to implement a new program. We know that we're required to serve 3 and 4-year-olds in our schools with IEPs. And so this position has been talked about for a bit, including at our district budget meeting. The committee is still working. They're working very hard, considering in less than 2 weeks they're going to be presenting to the board their plan. But the board thought, regardless of the plan, that this position, it was something that was important to include. That's why we moved it forward. And then the only other thing I wanted to mention, which may be unique about this position versus some of the other teacher positions, is that is year-round. So it would be a start date, obviously, earlier than a teacher per se. So I know those were some of the questions that I had gotten before this meeting, that I had before this meeting about this position being presented. But just wanted to open it up for other board members. Or also, I know, Lauren, you've been very involved in reviewing the coordinator position, what other districts have done. I don't know if there's anything that you want to add based on the work that your committee's been doing about this position.
The committee hasn't really been focused on this position. We're more focused on the model that we're going to recommend. But I have an understanding of what this position is anticipated to, some of the responsibilities they'll take on. So I can explain that if that would be helpful. So regardless of the model that we choose, this person is going to have to do a number of things, including building knowledge of our existing program and the one that whatever model that we choose in the expanded version for FAPE for 3 and 4-year-olds. They're going to have to engage in the state's cohort learning and activities with the Department of Education. They're going to have to build and establish relationship with our community partners. They're going to be coordinating with CDS and families regarding the incoming IEPs and holding all the meetings regarding the same. They're going to begin evaluations for students. They're going to be responsible for all the IEP paperwork and compliance. They're going to be building the program and all the operational details. If we choose to do a partnership model, they're going to be developing the memorandum of understanding with our community partners. They're going to be gathering enrollment and child count data to confirm the student needs and staffing and our operations. They're going to be administering kindergarten transition meetings in the spring. And this is all that we sort of can know and anticipate now. From what we understand, the state, this is all kind of a work in progress. So the state is constantly changing the expectations, and so we're kind of bobbing and weaving and preparing for that to change. So that's just some of the things that are going to be on this person's plate and have to be ready to do, again, kind of regardless of the model.
Okay. And I will say we keep mislabeling on our agenda the name of this position, because in the documents that we have in our folder are not the same as the agenda, but the position that's listed is Early Childhood Special Education Coordinator. And I think we've often, I myself included, have quickly instead referred to it as a pre-K coordinator, which is very different than an early childhood special education coordinator, and what that program and what the committee is about. It is not about broader pre-K. It's about serving the needs of our special education population. So I just wanted to make sure I also mentioned that. What other questions do people have?
Who was
On the interview committee?
Yeah.
Julie, Corey, Jane, Courtney, Lisa Hart.
So nobody's here, but I presume that looking at their teaching experience, educational data, can we say confidently that Jessica will walk in and be able to adapt to whatever it is. Like, I presume they know that we don't have a program yet, and they are willing to build the program depending on what we decide.
Yes, I had a chance to talk with Julie Olson, and I also, I meet with each one of the new hires and so forth. And in looking at her credentials and also in talking with Julie, this is absolutely the right person. And her experience with CDS is incredible and will help us extensively.
I can speak to the candidate. I was in a meeting with her this week, and I've met with her several times. She's a very nice lady who seems to have her ducks in a row and is very nervous about how the transition between CDS and the districts are going to go, and is quite frustrated by the challenge of the lack of information. I shared with Leanne, and I had a brief conversation. I have a child who has some high needs within his IEP, and I was notified that because I am at a 2 and not a 3, because I have not completed my bells and whistles, that the child would no longer receive his services effective June 1st, because nothing is different. But so CDS did go back, and he will get services through June 19th, the end of school. His extended year services have been declined or are currently in dispute. Not because of anything being different, except the state has to approve the fact that I've gone from a 2 to a 3. So,
And so in terms of this candidate and your relationship, you said frustrated with lack of communication. Is it lack of communication
through
from the state?
Through the information highway.
Okay.
And the challenge within DOE and DHHS, and the lack of conversation between these two entities. My fingerprint and full background check in DHHS is invalid at the Department of Education. So if I were to come and work at the district, all of that would need to be redone. It's the exact same company, it's the exact same document, it's the exact same information. And that is the frustration that I
And so do you
refer to.
Do you get the sense that her frustration is motivation for her to really get this right in our district?
That would be my hope. That would be the intent.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can't imagine what providers and families
Oh.
have to go through to get services, and I think that's why it's so important for us to want to like get this right, because if we are able to get kids these services, like the educational outcomes are so much better the younger that they get served. So this is just so important to get right.
And I continue to feel, and I'm in the business. This position is not necessary to be a full year position at this time. I would prefer it to be a half-year position. We have people within the district that are already doing some of this work, and especially given that we will not have the children to be managing. But I know, again, that's a separate issue.
So the position won't start this summer. It'll start September 1. Okay, and it'll be on basically a school year, or through, and run through like a teacher would run through that type of a school year. And then it will have time that we'll look at extra days in the summer.
Okay, so
starting with 27. Okay. When the position is actually needed. So there will be, it won't be this summer, but the following summer where there'll be the work that would happen during the summertime for this position. Yeah.
I'm sorry that I missed.
No, I just wanted to clarify that so that everyone would understand this position doesn't start July 1.
Okay.
Okay.
It starts like a regular teaching,
Starts-
but it will have responsibilities through next summer, because that's where a lot
Exactly.
of the.
It'll basically, the position will work, the teacher work here until we start adding additional days to the position
Okay.
for the work that needs to happen for the program for the following year.
Okay, so same as like the teachers that we, just approved, they start
Yeah.
in.
Yeah, it's not a teaching position, but it's the, it's the early childhood specialist position.
Okay.
We have a number of positions that fall on what we call letters of employment, such as like psychologists, BCBAs, our
Okay.
physical therapists, all work those same types of years. We follow the salary scale.
Okay.
But the issue is that these positions actually require more time and more days.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
And just to further clarify, because this was a discussion we had a lot in our finance meetings, if we were to push off hiring for this position even by 6 months, this person might not be available. And then we might not have as strong a candidate who can help us navigate. So, that was why I personally felt confident approving this as starting now, especially given that as of right now, this position will be billed to the state. And so it's worth it, I believe, to start now, even though it's a budget item. Now it's an investment in making sure that we get the right person, because it sounds like this is the right person. So it's worth the money that we're getting reimbursed for anyway.
I'll tell you, too, in looking at job descriptions and understanding this role, a number of districts are looking for this person right now. So we are definitely in
Absolutely.
competition.
Okay, that's helpful context.
Helpful.
Other questions, Annika?
So I've supported hiring for this position, but I was certainly among those who was concerned when I saw it on our agenda to approve tonight. And I appreciate the explanation, Scott, that you gave of how that process works in the district, where once the school board has approved the budget in April, that those positions get posted. I guess a follow-up question I would have to that is whether you know, and you might not know this information, but maybe you do off the top of your head, whether that is common practice within districts to post positions upon board approval of a budget?
I can't answer it for all districts, but I can tell you that when you start seeing advertisements, they're in April. So, and usually budgets aren't approved and, or actually finally voted on till June or May in some of the districts and so forth. So I don't have that data in front of me, but I can tell you that what we see is a number of job openings this time of year in which we need to fill. So.
But we can certainly look into that for
Yeah,
future.
we can look into
Well,
the
and
answer on that.
specifically, I think even more so for those new positions versus filling of vacancies.
Yeah, I would say that that's probably the case just by the data that I see.
I have an irritating hypothetical question.
I know it's gonna, go ahead.
It's irritating and
I'm not
hypothetical.
gonna tell you not to ask it, Sarah.
But I guess I'm concerned about the budget and the concerns about the budget, and what happens if we hire all these people and then the budget's not approved?
Well, and Scott, please correct me if I'm wrong, the warrants, the cost centers have all been approved, correct? So.
Like how, and I know this is totally hypothetical.
No, I
but
know, I'm answering your question because if it had come up at the district budget meeting, a motion had been made for cost center 1, and that motion was approved, meaning we would have to reduce our budget for cost center 1, right? But since those warrants have now been approved, wouldn't that mean that we would, I don't want to say have the freedom, but we would have the flexibility to look at the budget as a whole?
So if the budget fails, okay, it's going to pass, okay? But if the budget was to fail, you have to go back through the same process all over again. So you would have to go back to a district meeting.
We would
okay,
have to
and
do
you
the
would have
warrants
to-
all over
And you would have
again.
to start that
Okay.
warrant process again, and then you would have to have another vote, and you would continue that process until you actually passed a budget.
Okay, thank
So,
you.
and
I
then,
thought once the
Wouldn't be
warrants were
two
approved.
separate.
that it
You would
was-
have to
okay.
do the district.
You still do the
budget
district meeting, and then you
do-
still go to the polls. That's my understanding.
Okay,
Okay.
okay.
Does that-
Yeah, it was as much a
Yeah.
process question.
Yeah,
I just,
yeah.
well, and Kim, you and I, we've talked a lot about doing our best to stay away from lives and looking at positions that don't have people in them versus, like, am I making any sense?
Yeah, yeah.
People.
Cutting a
Cutting
position.
people.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
no, I feel like we're putting people in them.
Right,
It
so-
causes me concern.
Follow-up question is then, so what happens to this early childhood person in the interim, where we're in this new budget process? And this
You work off the last budget that was basically approved at the district budget meeting until you pass a budget. So it's whatever you proposed at your last budget is the one that would be worked off until the next one was approved, okay? And, at that point, the budget could either go down or it could go up. I've seen budgets go back out again, and people come out and increase areas of the budget. I've seen them go out again and get reduced, so it goes both ways.
And I think I remember one time that in probably 10 or 15 years that it didn't pass. So, I mean, I'm
Yeah, it
purely
was-
hypothetical.
It
I
was
just-
the same number of yeses and the same number of nos.
Yes.
And it didn't pass, and we went back out with some small adjustments. And it overwhelmingly passed at the district budget meeting and overwhelmingly passed at the polls. So, yeah, when we went back out. So,
Thank you for entertaining my
Yeah.
irritating and hypothetical
Yeah,
questions.
clearly I
Sarah,
misread the
always.
process.
Just to dovetail it back to this, I feel a lot more comfortable about this position, knowing that it's the September 1st start, because a lot of our conversation was should this start mid-year, which would be January, and now we're kind of in between it. That makes me feel a little bit better about it, because I think I was leaning the other way the whole time as well, so.
and remember, this position is gonna carry funding with it. So this may not be the position you look to reduce, okay, in the failure of a budget. Because this one will have dollars that are attached to it in reimbursement, so.
Correct. And we chose to put the cost in there and not assume that we're getting the money, whereas we could have just said we
as a
were gonna get
caution,
it.
right? But yeah, so this.
Which annoyed me, but whatever.
But it's, we would have had to put the revenue on the other side, okay, and then still carried the expense. But yes, so that may not be the board may not choose to go that direction just because of the funding that's attached to it.
Yeah. Any other questions? Okay. All in favor? All opposed? Thank you. I appreciate the conversation. All right, committee reports. You're up.
Okay. I'm by myself tonight. Katie's left me. But no, she's actually doing good stuff. Tonight, Katie is at her IB celebration of completion night. That's like right before graduation. That's like her final big. I mean, completing IB and getting her IB diploma, that's huge. I chose not to take the IB route, and that's a lot. So I praise Katie for that, but sad to miss her tonight. Some stuff going on in the arts recently, specifically at the high school. We had a band concert, a jazz night, and an art show, all within the past 2 weeks of each other. I got to go to the art show. It was conveniently during the Evening of Excellence that we had the other night. So I went early, and I saw all my friends' art. Super cool. I didn't take art, and I'm not an artist, but I applaud kids that can put their art up on display. So it was really nice to see it. I saw a lot of students there looking at the art, displaying their own art. It's super cool. I love when students are able to be creative with their learning. That's always important. So that was super fun. We had prom last weekend.
It was just
Last weekend. Yes, last weekend. So my class planned prom this year. My junior class planned prom, and we had it at Ocean Gateway, which was beautiful. That was probably the coolest I've been to. This is my third prom that I went to, and so cool. I liked that it was in a really big area. I don't like when we're in like small areas for prom. It stresses me out. So that was super cool. It took a lot of planning from the prom committee and our class officers, and a lot of student input and a lot of teacher input too. And we had a lot of administrators there trying to help out and like keep prom on the appropriate level. So thank you, Mr. Gray. But yeah, it was super fun. I'm really happy with how that turned out. It took a lot of planning. The seniors are gone, and it's our last few weeks of school before finals. So everyone's kind of just like pushing through it. Everything's really busy right now. But I think it's a good busy. I mean, spring sports are in full swing, and it's always fun to go support your friends in sports or in whatever activities they do outside of school. So it's a fun yet stressful last couple weeks of school, but the hallways feel very empty without the seniors. And I say this every year, but I don't get used to it. I don't get used to them leaving and it just feeling so empty. Or like I'll pull into the parking lot and everyone's just gone. And I'm like, this is so
Yeah, but you got a
odd.
parking space.
I can find a parking spot. The sophomores aren't taking my parking spots. They took the seniors. So that's nice. Yeah, that's really all I got.
Yeah, and can you believe that, like, you're knocking on the senior?
I know.
Yeah.
We had applications to be senior mentors, and I was like, this is crazy that I'm filling this out right now. Crazy. But I'm excited. Yep.
Thank you, Caitlin. Finance.
We're pretty much in a holding pattern at the moment, just waiting to make sure the budget passes, and then we'll move on from there. And I will just echo what Leanne said, that I am very much looking forward to an adjusted schedule, a better schedule, I think, for next year.
Thank you, Kim. All right, Jesse. Policy.
So we have a first read tonight, but before I get to that, policy, we have been grappling with the bell-to-bell cell phone policy that we need to put into place. It was already in the works, luckily, because we saw this coming. So we've had some good meetings. The last piece that we were grappling with was whether or not to leave it to building administrators to figure out the policy for having the cell phones not available, or whether to put into policy that cell phones should be stored, right? So it was off and away. Does the cell phone, like at the middle school, just have to be off in your bag? And we would do the same thing at the high school, or do we want to go for a storage solution, of which there are many? Some are more expensive, some are less expensive. And Mari Trebelcock came and presented at our last policy meeting and brought a lot of really compelling evidence about why even having a cell phone that's off and away, just its proximity to you provides a dopamine hit and distraction, and they've measured the effects of it. Science has done the research, and it has it's like a negative 0.3 effect, and like being severely bullied has a negative 2.8 or 0.28 effect. So just having your cell phone nearby has like a negative educational outcome equivalent to being bullied. So yeah, it was a really compelling case that was just like locking the cell phones up or having them put away. And Carl Francis, took that very seriously. He thought maybe the teachers and students and parents would have an issue with that. Logistically, it might be more difficult. So yeah, we basically spent the whole time discussing, do we go with what we know is better for educational outcomes and mental health, but maybe will be difficult to implement, or do we go with the thing that allows students to have their phones with them?
And
we're going to decide at our next meeting where to go.
And
watches. Oh, watches. We also talked watches because some nameless school board members like watches, but our hands are tied. They are also a connected device. So
well, and it's listed in.
They will also have to be locked.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we will be coming to our final decision. That's the last little piece of the policy, and so it'll be. Cell phone policy will be available for first read at the next meeting. So anyone in the public, if you'd like to come talk to us about what you think of the policy and whether you agree with it or not, next meeting is your chance before we then do second read at our last school board meeting.
Yeah, and there's going to be such a huge parent education piece.
Yes, yeah, which we talked about as well. Because I mean, the results that Julie or Mari brought is like it's pretty shocking, like how much of a negative impact even just having your phone nearby, let alone being on it, and also that students, even when they're not supposed to have them, tend to use them up to 1 to 4 hours a day, just sneaking them in the bathroom, wherever. So yeah, we'll decide that at our next policy meeting, whether to put that into policy or still leave it up to the building administrators.
Is it a time where student reps, I know none of the student reps were either able to attend. I know it was like in the middle of the day.
No, neither student reps were there. But we got input from students. Yeah, and I think having them locked up, I know a big concern for students was like the safety blanket of having their cell phones nearby, even if they're off, because if there's an emergency, they can pull them out of their backpacks. And so if we have them locked up, that is something we will have to grapple with on the Safety and Security Committee and make sure we have policies and educate parents, and so we welcome input if anybody wants to come talk to us about it at our first read at our next meeting. And our first read for tonight is EFC, free and reduced priced food services. Yeah, just some tweaks here to align with Maine state law. Yeah, if anybody has questions, I'm happy to go over them, but all of this language came from Drummond Woodsum to align with Maine state law, so.
Okay, so it was direct from.
Yeah.
Okay.
We didn't have much input, I don't think, did we?
I think this was just about the fact that it's free now.
Yeah.
Which just occurred to me, maybe it should just be called free food services.
That's true.
I didn't think about that before.
Don't look at the title doesn't get as much scrutiny, right? As we saw with our entitled pre-K coordinator, right?
Right, I didn't notice that till now.
Noted, we'll talk about that at our next policy meeting, and we may have that adjustment for you for second read.
Any other questions on this policy?
As always, feel free to, if you see anything, Annika, I'm talking to you. If you find any small changes that we didn't catch, feel free to send them to me and I'll get them in there before second read.
So far, so good. Thanks, Jesse.
That's it for me.
All right. So the facilities committee, I know Tim wasn't able to join us tonight, and I'm forgetting, is it Sean that agreed to?
Yes, I agreed. Facilities committee, we had a meeting last week, if I'm correct, and the big topic last week was the playground presentation by Corey. We had the architect from the as well as Doug there, and Corey presented the playground. I was very impressed with what came forward, and I wish I had snuck that off the table with me so I could show you guys right now. There was a lot of thought and intention that went into the playground. I think I saw so much I was kind of shocked because the 30,000-foot view looking down on why we're doing things was there, and as well as brought it all the way down to the ground level and kind of understood what the implications of each item that they had chosen for the application, especially the pre-K area, was very suited for outside learning and not just a play space. So that was great. And then we talked about this wonderful first read on the facilities plan. I know it was included in the board packet. I do not have an ability to put it on the screen if we chose to, so I don't know if anybody else has the ability to put it up there for us.
Nope.
Perfect. Okay. So we were charged with coming up with a long-term facilities plan over the last year. That's what we've been working on. I want to start with saying that it's not saying that we didn't have a long-term facilities plan already in place, and then this is something monitored regularly. It's just something that we felt was required with the new strategic plan so it could align with it moving forward. With that said, I would want to give a big thank you to Don Foster, Scott Poulin, Jeff, and many others on the facilities committee and within the district. There was a lot of time, effort, and energy that went into that, and it shows. We based most of this on what the draft plan was, the strategic plan, so we tried to align those two together as we developed this plan. There are 3 priorities that came out of this, and most of them, the first priority is critical infrastructure and safety. The second priority is short-term projects and strategic enhancements, and the third priority is long-term projects and site improvements. These are all based on the idea that everything with the One Campus project and the new buildings in addition are going as planned. So these are outside of those. So I just wanted to quickly go over the priority levels and what goes below them. So priority level 1, the key things in there are the track. We're either going to have to resurface it or replace it. It is at the end of nearing the end of its life cycle. Some may say it's beyond the end of its life cycle. The next thing would be the safety and security upgrades, the PA system in the high school, and key swipe at the doors, which would be a great improvement beyond what we have right now. One of the things that's always been on the plan that keeps coming back up is the HVAC modernization, especially at the middle school. That is the original system that was when the building was put in. So obviously it is past its life cycle, and we have keeping it going right now. So it needs to be on the priority list right at the top. As well as new requirements for temperature control through the state and the policy committee, which would key in what we need to do with high school with energy projects going forward. In priority level 2, short-term projects and strategic enhancements. We were looking at the swimming pool facility. It was put in 1966/67, if I remember correctly, because I was there now. Yeah. And it was based on standards that are from that time period. Obviously, now we no longer have diving there because it is not deep enough as per current standards. And there's
We did.
no,
We did dive in it.
We took the diving board out.
there's not really enough viewing room. If you've ever been to a swim meet or tried to go to a swim meet there, there's never been enough room, even when I was in 20-something years ago when I was there. So that becomes always an issue, be it heating, cleaning, all the issues associated with it. Another one is post-portable field restoration at the middle school. Obviously, there was a softball field there at one point, as well as the new arsenic mound containment on the far end, so we'll have to look at how we're going to re-establish those fields afterwards. Art and STEM space expansion, mostly just understanding what spaces we have, how they relate to renovating those spaces, and as STEM and art change over time, how do we meet those needs? Upgrading IT infrastructure, always a priority, even with the conversation we've had tonight about how much technology is required in the classroom. We still need to support our current systems the best we can. It's cheaper to repair as we go instead of having to replace big IT infrastructure. A central office improvement plan. I think there's definitely some talk in that regarding efficiency with the building and also what we need for staffing there and how much room we have. Field house ventilation and functional improvement, and then sustainability and energy efficiency upgrades. Most likely this will be, from what I'm reading, grant funded. So I think there.
Didn't we get an email about that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So we will address that as it comes. Then we go on to priority level 3, long-term projects and site improvements. The first one on there is turf installation opportunities. There's some definite talk back and forth about where and we could put that and if it's applicable for those spaces. Road signage and wayfinding improvements. I think with the new campus, there's enough road shifts that we need better signage going forward down the road. Generator backups, district-wide and facility buildings, sizing them, cost benefit. Greeley Road field enhancements. We talked about it tonight, about the lease, so what we can add there or what we need. And then one of the things that we noticed on our walk around, foundation registration on high school, definitely on the back side of the building there on all the wings. If you look at the foundation there, there's parts of it cracking, peeling away. It's definitely something on our radar. And then a continued GHS study to look at space and implementation for teacher space needs going forward with the class size increases. Those are where we're at right now. The next steps we need to do now that we are getting closer to having an approved strategic plan is to get further community input and then feasibility of each one of these items and get cost estimates from the architect so we can better allocate resources and get a better timeline and spread the costs out over time, which comes with phase planning, funding strategy, and obviously an ongoing review. I feel like there's always something that we need to add. So we have some older buildings that are gonna need maintenance constantly, and I think we've had a really great approach thus far, and especially over the last 5-6 years, that we are doing a great job keeping up our buildings, because there's plenty of school districts in our state and our fellow communities around us that haven't been able to do that, and they are not a good position at all. So I appreciate those that came before me, and maybe one individual that's leaving this year for all their work. And there is many more things to this. I would, encourage everybody to read through this, and if there's any more questions, please email anybody on the facilities committee, and we can answer those before our next meeting and we go over this.
I did want to catch you, Sean, earlier, and I didn't have a chance to, but we did have drafted an RFQ for the resurfacing of the track, and so that'll be going out for basically a request for qualifications and see what we get for vendors on that. Okay, so.
Because we want to be able to resurface before we have to replace it because
we
do.
Didn't if we resurface it, and we feel if we get to it now that we won't have to do any site work and tear the thing up. But we're going to get requests from vendors and see what the proposals are in order. Some may recommend taking it up, some may recommend resurfacing it. We don't know until we get the proposals in, and then meet with the ones that we're interested in and go from there.
Okay.
Can I just point one thing out? I don't know if you said it, that part of this plan was done with community input, that Tim did reach out and get community input, which I think is a sort of new thing for facilities. In my years on the board on the facilities committee, I don't recall us doing that in the past, which I thought was an interesting and creative thing to do. A lot of the community input was about safety and security, and that's reflected in this plan. But it's just worth mentioning that input is involved in this now.
And Annika, that was part of the
I was going to say, that was a great collaboration too between the curriculum committee and the facilities committee, because that was a question that we asked about in the focus groups that we led, and we were able to share that information and input that we heard back with Tim. But he was also really great about pursuing that and requesting that and making sure that went into informing this plan.
I had a question about the road signage improvements, wayfinding. Is there a reason educate me here, it feels like it's pretty far down, and yet the one campus project to me sort of lends itself to at least doing some of that? And I'm going to ask one more time, could we please change the color of the dividing line to yellow out here in the Geiger parking lot? But yeah, just curious, like what will happen with the one campus project, and then what would have to wait? Do you know?
I don't have a solid answer for that, because I feel like there's been so much different opinions and talking points on that subject, especially last year when we were specifically in the building committee, and how that applied to the transition with the roads. I don't want to make any assumptions, so I think Jeff might be the guy to answer that question.
Okay.
Unless you have good answers.
No, I mean, we've had conversations with the architect about new signage, and I think that what it may be is a staging of the signage.
Okay.
You know, there may be some initial signage as part of the project, and then maybe some more detailed signage beyond that. But we have looked at that and have looked at it being part of the One Campus project, so.
And I think all the new traffic patterns will have
They
new
will be,
signage.
they will have
So
signage
there are
and stuff, yeah.
Significant changes.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, I had the same question, Kim. Were you looking at the priority level 3 or the?
And the
yeah.
5-year roadmap.
Yeah, because it seems like we would do that at the same time that the configuration, the major reconfiguration would be happening.
Right.
Yeah.
I just want to say thank you for putting this together on paper and giving it some priority levels. So, you know, we've talked about it a lot in finance, and having that to go kind of hand in hand with what are we looking at from enrollment, what are we looking at from facilities, what are we looking at from curriculum, and just having the opportunity to put it all together and have a little bit of a 5-year plan on paper to be able to reflect on. So I appreciate that very much.
We also have, those are larger capital items there.
Right.
We also have minor capital items that are on like a 10-year plan. And that's actually been shared with Tim, and I'm sure that'll be coming back to one of the facilities committee meetings, which will tie hand in hand in that. And I actually said RFQ, it's an RFP, by the way. Request for proposal, not qualifications, so, okay.
I have asked repeatedly for Scott to be downloaded, and there seems to be some questions about that ethically, but just saying.
Can we have AI, Scott?
I will say, Sarah, being on both committees, I feel like sometimes I don't think it comes across this way, but I feel this way internally, that I get to be the bad guy. As I look at most of the stuff at the facilities committee, I'm like, nope, nope. Or we need to look at that again, or how can we save money there? Because I mean, I'm going to bring it up, even the playground plan, amazing, like amazing, right?
How much does it cost?
Right, right. And we might see some slight modifications based on costing and when it comes back. We didn't have solid numbers yet, so I can't say much beyond that, but that was a focus.
I might have some insight or some available designers.
Testers?
Well, I have testers too. Oh, they'll test you. No, don't you worry about that. But I have to say, I think I've gone to most of the facility meetings, and it really has been helpful to link those two groups together to see how it really all fits.
Yeah, it's definitely a big cost driver. So.
Huge and important.
I did want to recognize the pain in your voice when you read one word on this.
Oh, yeah. I noticed that.
I did. There is a mention of turf opportunities. I'm glad that you had to read that in particular. I think it was just an open question. Are there places that on campus that could benefit from the turf?
Yeah, just to speak to that. I think there's
See, I gave you an opening.
specifically there's the one area that always comes back up is the downward slope at Tuttletown, as it's very difficult to get grass to grow there.
It's a dirt pit.
Yes, because grass takes over a year to establish, and we don't have over a year to lock it down. And
We've actually even sodded areas before, and it doesn't last. It just gets tore up because there's 600 kids, so they go out on it.
And talking about Tuttletown, I don't know if it's going to be mentioned at one of the next meetings, but because we are going to be redoing the roof this year, there's going to be a change to community access there.
Thank you.
So I'm sure Jeff can elaborate on that further, but just be aware that that playground will most likely not be available all summer long.
Which is a big change.
Because
for the
Yarmouth
community.
is also doing renovations at the Riverwalk, so this summer.
Yeah, actually, the whole building isn't accessible because of the roof, so, and doing the roof repairs, we've kept staff out of there this summer, coming up this summer.
So, sorry I made you talk about turf more. But.
think dirty kids are fine. They don't need to.
Dirty kids are awesome. Dirty kids will grow. They will increase immunity. I can do a half an hour on it. Maybe longer.
Just
All right,
don't
we have
like
3 minutes
plastic on the
before we have to
ground.
vote to extend the meeting.
All right.
All right, curriculum.
Vote dirt.
So quickly, not specifically committee related, but one thing about each of our 2 students, I heard Caitlin breeze over the Evening of Excellence, at which she was among those recognized. So wanted to note that. And then I don't know if anyone else saw that they could have voted for Katie Wallace for Spring Athlete of the Week, not this past Sunday in the Press Herald, but the Sunday before. So I got to vote for her. I have no idea how you find out who won, so.
I think they post it on the same.
Okay.
But I don't know. I don't think I'd see it get posted. But I voted for Katie too. Don't worry.
But curriculum committee, very brief update. We met on the 5th and reviewed the plan that
You've been busy.
Mari, yes,
Yeah.
presented tonight. We have 1 meeting left for this academic year, which is this coming Tuesday, and Mari will be presenting an update on the CKLA implementation. That's kind of our big ticket item for that meeting.
Great, thank you. Kim, equity?
We also have our last scheduled meeting next week, where we will finalize our review of the equity plan and put together our recommendation to the board on the future of the equity committee.
Great, thank you. Looking forward to that. Communications, Megan.
Alrighty. So as Carolyn Small alluded to, there will be a beam signing ceremony, which is a very sweet thing that will happen at the new school, where the pre-K students will walk up from Maple Eye to sign a beam that will be installed in the school. So the students sign, and the incoming school staff, so pre-K through 1 staff will sign as well.
That's so
Carolyn will
cool.
sign.
I love that.
Ideally, then the beam would be lifted and put into place with the kids, which is a really wonderful photo op, as one can imagine. We can't do it that way because of where the beam will ultimately go. So Carolyn had more information than I did about which day the beam signing is happening on, because we're running out of days. With so many things happening, like the senior walk and different like field trips and things like that. So that is a very sweet thing, and you'll see photos from that on a bunch of our ways that we reach out to share information. So I just want to highlight some of these for the people watching, the people in the room, that the communications committee tries to disseminate information about our district and our students and all the wonderful things happening here through as many channels as possible. And that includes our social media, which is Instagram and Facebook, the superintendent's report, which is via email, the Cumberland Crier for Cumberlandians, notes from Town Hall for North Yarmouthians, the MSAD51.org website, and the newest avenue is Good News Greeley, which is a hard copy, 1-page front and back, only good news about Greeley students that is in its 3rd edition, coming out, I think, this week. You can find that in the offices of each building, at Town Hall, at the library, at North Yarmouth Variety Store, or North Yarmouth Convenience Store, anywhere that we can physically put them, and hopefully they don't get covered by somebody else's flyers. I bring all these things up because many times people say things like, I have no idea what's going on at that school. I have no idea. I don't know what's going on. I want to know, but I don't know. And we're certainly open to ideas, but those are our avenues. And the message that I want to get out is to encourage your parents, your friends, your group members, your neighbors to opt in. We can reach out through these avenues. We cannot reach out through mailers. A simple black and white mailer to just Cumberland on like a postcard is $1,200. And if you recall, most of our postage was cut from the budget for good reason. But we don't have other great ways to get to those people who don't, use social media or go on our website. So there's a little bit of an impasse. But if you can get those people who want to know but don't know what's going on to opt in, to just get on the superintendent's report, to watch a school board meeting, to
look at the Cumberland Crier and the school board section at the bottom. Because I think, communication is a two-way street. We're going to put it out. We're going to keep putting out the good news, but we need people to receive, to actually read the emails, to opt in, and to know what we're doing. This is going to get really important as we get into our strategic plan, which Mari alluded to, because one of the heavy lifts there is building a database of Cumberland and North Yarmouth's resources, right? The people who do the jobs that are going to be helpful to our students. So the example that Mari brought up was Carolyn Small and somebody, I think, researching in Cumberland. Another one was when your kid's in trigonometry and they're like, why do I need this? Well, if somebody from the community can say, I do this job and I use trig in this way, it's much more meaningful. So as we build that database of people in our communities who have experience, who want to share with our students, there's going to be this need for people to start opting in, tell people how to get in touch with the school, tell people how to get the information. And then when we send out the emails and reach out to the community, it's encouraging people to opt in, to say yes, or to click, or to actually read the email. Because that's going to be an exciting thing. And Jesse alluded to it earlier, that there are a lot of personal connections that we have through this group, through the parents group, through the teachers, through all of us. But there are people out there who don't have kids in our district, who don't really know what's going on, but probably who would benefit us greatly. So it's a multidimensional need and problem. But when you talk to people out there, get them to opt in.
Great.
Join us.
Thank you, Megan. Appreciate that.
Can I piggyback on that?
Sure can.
I kind of see that. I'm going to really date myself, but there was a commercial for a shampoo where it was, you tell two people and they tell two people, and then these faces would appear. And I really see the database as happening that way, where I say, hey, Megan, you are a doctor, and I would love to have you in this database if there's a kid who, wants to learn more about that or about sun safety, right? And then you are telling somebody, hey, I did this cool presentation. You know what? You are an engineer. I would love to put you in the database. And so it may take a little while, but starting with what we already have, and I hope it just keeps spreading and spreading and spreading. But also, thank you for the reminder to opt in, because I just had this conversation with someone today, and I appreciate that.
Great, thank you. Lauren, Early Childhood Special Education Committee.
Nailed it.
See?
Good job. We have met a few times since our last board meeting. We have moved into the phase of deliberation and discussion. Up until May, we were focused on gathering information. So we had held a focus group. We had a member gather information about what neighboring districts were doing. We had a community survey out there to try to gauge some information about what families with young children, what their thoughts and needs were around childcare and pre-K. And we, one of our members got information from community providers in Cumberland and North Yarmouth, and we were able to sit in and meet with the district's pre-K program. So that was kind of the first focus of our work, and now we've held 2 meetings where we're discussing kind of all of that and how the district can best meet its obligations for child find and FAPE for 3 and 4-year-olds. We have one more meeting next Tuesday. The committee members have a lot of faith that we're going to come to consensus. That would be great. I won't be shocked. I don't know. I don't know. There's just so many ways to do this, so many considerations. It's a really interesting topic that we're in, but we have a really wonderful group of really dedicated and passionate people we're really lucky to have such great members in our community who are dedicated to this.
Great. Thank you. Yes, and that'll be a big focus of our board meeting on the 3rd. So thank you.
Can I just extend an invitation? I appreciate that you guys got to see the district pre-K program. I would welcome any and all of you to come and see my pre-K program and see what does it look like off campus.
Thank you, Sarah. Appreciate that. All right. Ad hoc committees. Anyone?
Sure.
Oh, yeah. Safety. Before, do we motion to continue? Anyone past 9?
10 minutes.
I'd like to make a motion to continue talking.
Can I get a second?
I would second that.
Second. Okay. All in favor? Okay.
10 minutes.
All right. 10 minutes. Go ahead.
Okay. At our safety and security board meeting, we had an excellent discussion of the May 1st Centegix alert. And talking about safety and security is a little bit like Fight Club, where like you really can't talk about it very much. So if I sound vague, it's very much on purpose. But we had a really, really robust, super comprehensive discussion with the Safety and Security Committee about what happened on the 1st with the, happily, the false alarm. A lot of action items came out of it, a lot of great ideas, and a lot of agreement to continue talking about things. So the event happened on the 1st. Parents and caregivers were, quickly and appropriately notified through Bright Arrow. A lot of questions remain, but I felt really super satisfied about the work that the committee is doing to continue re-examining Centegix and our safety and security protocols based on that. Have anything to add?
I do, if you were.
The last thing is the Stop the Bleed kits. The first 100 are almost built. The nurse at the high school, Erica Sarapas, who's amazing, has been hand building them. I'll join her tomorrow to continue building, and then they'll be distributed into the schools until, so those are our first go-rounds, and then when we get the next infusion of cash to buy the next however many, more will be built.
Great.
So it's happening.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say one thing else about the safety committee. I will say that the Stop Bleed kits probably would not be where they are without Megan. So I just wanted to say that outright. You did most of that work to make it happen. You pushed, and it got done. So you're going to be missed on that committee greatly. So thank you for all your hard work.
My pleasure.
And somebody else sitting over there, Dawn, I don't know if you're going to be part of it next year, but you have pushed that committee leaps and bounds ahead, and I just want to say a big thank you for everything you've done. Huge. Yeah. You've been instrumental in every part of that.
Yeah. Hopefully, it still plays a role.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
I'm really glad. I just want to comment, and I'm really glad that the committee is working through that experience. I just want to make the comment because I heard it from so many parents that was not a great experience for their kids or their the parents. So I just want to publicly acknowledge that I heard that, and that's important.
And I think a lot of people felt that way. The experience was so different between the schools and between the kids. And one of the questions that was asked at the rehashing was, did people respond appropriately? Like, was the reaction of the kids and the staff, was that how it was supposed to go down? And the answer was essentially yes. There's a threat, the systems are activated, and then there are a series of decisions that are made. At the lower grade levels, they're made mostly by the adults. At the upper grade levels, they're made by, it's sort of shared decision making. And so, I don't think it was a great experience for a lot of people in the high school. And it was talked about quite a lot. And I think one thing that will be helpful, but it won't happen till next year, is that there's a plan to have a community-wide, what is ALICE? What is this thing that our kids are being taught as the way to respond to an emergency or an event in the schools? Because I think a lot of people who don't either work in the schools or do that kind of work don't know, what are our kids doing? So there will hopefully be a public What is ALICE sponsored, I think by the town mostly, by the PD. Is that right, Don? Yeah. To explain to people like us and parents and the towns what it is, where I think more light will be sort of shed on both what our kids and our staff are doing, and like, how do we understand that as parents? Because then as we get this, maybe your kid won't have a cell phone with them, and there could be some kind of emergency. What happens then? How do we feel safe then? And all of that is addressed by the different programs that the Safety and Security Committee are just working at all the time. Awesome. Yeah, thanks for mentioning that.
Yeah, I appreciate that being raised as a parent of two high schoolers. One had a phone and one didn't, and I can tell you how that felt. And we talked about that, but it's a consideration.
I'm just going to piggyback a little bit. I was concerned about the teachers and the staff, and and this is probably not a question that you can answer. I would assume it's not information you would have, but I'm hoping that at building levels there were opportunities to kind of detox what happened and what we did and how we can do it better, so that the teachers felt that support. Because when you're the adult in charge and there's a traumatic situation, and then it's not a traumatic situation, there is still a huge, massive emotional fallout. And once again, our teachers just went back to work. Yeah.
There was a circle back at the building levels with the staff, and if you want to jump in at any point because you were part of that.
Just real quick. Yes, there was. So I know at the high school there was a survey sent out, and I know that teachers went back and talked to their kids about what happened and what was learned. But the very next morning, that was on a Friday, Monday morning, Carl held a meeting before school started and invited everybody to that meeting to discuss what happened and talk through some of the learnings and the experience, and so that opportunity was given.
But yeah, I heard even the students were concerned about their teachers.
Right, right. And I know the middle school had a little bit of a different experience. I just hope that there were opportunities for that to have been addressed as well.
Don, you also made some protocol changes at the high school as well with the use of radios without using the Centegix program for certain items.
Correct. We're looking at changing things to improve, and we have a tabletop exercise actually scheduled for this upcoming week with the school safety center. The main school safety center is coming down, and we're going to work with the Cumberland PD and our partners and go back through that with the learning that we just had from this event.
Right.
And to improve further. But yes, so the badge was used, and so it was one of those events where it just was an anxious moment, and so those things happened. So we did change protocol to try to eliminate those false reports from happening. So we are using radios for certain things and not going to use this in Centegix, because one is you can use it for staff alerts, and then there's the ALICE alert. So anyway.
And then there were also some changes made directly following the event for how Centegix communicates with all of the schools, because there was a little confusion at the middle school. Yeah. The other thing that was mentioned at the meeting was that kids in the high school, students in the high school, were given an opportunity to talk about what happened in advisory.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Not an enthusiastic yeah, but
well,
yeah.
I don't think that it was necessarily something that like every advisory formally went about talking about the same. I think it was a general conversation and kids who felt comfortable speaking about the situation, because I think a lot of students kind of wanted it to be pushed under the rug situation. Like, I don't want to talk about it because obviously it was a very traumatizing experience for a lot of people. And I think it was important that it was talked about. But I definitely think that it was kind of a personal, like, advisory-based, how much do we want to talk about this? Do we want to go into detail about whose experiences? Because it is weird, like, and Sarah mentioned, like, the teacher aspect of it. Seeing your teacher hide in the closet is a new experience for people. And, like, that's scary, seeing, like administrators and facilitators, like also have that same, like, emotional response that students have. And I think I kind of had a question about the Centegics. I don't know if anyone knows the answer to this, and, like, I know that there's a security thing with how much students are, because, like, they're connected to teachers' badges, and that's kind of like, we're not allowed to have the teachers' badges because that's their way of, like, alerting in an emergency. But I think a lot of kids were confused about, in the moment, like, what communication was given to us, because what we were taught through Alice and in our advisories, which we get a lot of information about what we're supposed to do in these types of situations. But from my understanding, what we were told is there would be, like, a color of those lights that would come off that is supposed to have significance to whatever type of emergency is going on, and that there would also be some sort of announcement as to where the emergency is in the school. And I think that the lack of that, like, information in the situation scared a lot of kids, because although we do have our own choices of whether we stay in the school or we leave, I think that's very dependent on what we know about the emergency and the overall lack of knowledge in what was going on in the moment, because it was an accident and whatever happened. I think that was what was scary for a lot of kids, because you're making a gut instinct decision.
Based on very little.
And teachers are too, because teachers had no idea what was going on either.
Right.
And so I think that was what was most scary for people, is, like, making a gut decision of your life.
Right.
And so I think that was a lot. But we did talk about it in my advisory personally. And I thought that was very helpful, just to get perspectives from teachers and students. It's definitely a learning experience.
And I would just say yes, that you are right on. That was one of the things we identified was communication. And I think it goes back to anybody can communicate. And I think after this happened, some of the discussions were, if this happened again, you know, I had the information, I would have said something. But it's like the fire alarm. Nobody wants to pull that fire alarm. They're scared. There's a little bit of smoke, and instead they want to get somebody else to look at that to see if the fire alarm needs to be pulled, because, you know, you've been taught, you know that's a big responsibility. Right, don't touch it. And I think the same is true in these instances where it's pretty anxiety inducing, and, you know, where do I find, you know, to get on the intercom, and do I get on the intercom, or somebody else is going to do that? I shouldn't do that. So people are more comfortable as a result of this. It's unfortunate that, you know, it takes something like this to make that happen, but thank goodness that it was a false alarm.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Other ad hoc committees?
Just quickly, on behalf of our community partners, Philibus Filibelli, from Greeley PTO, in collaboration with the schools, of course, is happening next week. So there will be a bus parked in the middle school lot, and people can drop off their non-perishable donations for the Cumberland Food Pantry.
Thank you. Any other ad hoc committees? All right. So the last item before adjournment for communications, given where we are in our year, we have 2 meetings left of this. I know, right? At this board. Unfortunately, 2 members will be rotating off. I mean, Tim's running on a post, so I'm going to assume he's back, but we have another member's term is up. But Megan and Annika's terms are up. And we have a procedure of policy BDE around posting of names for board chair and vice chair. And I'll just read this because I have it handy. It's short. So in order to ensure board members have an opportunity to participate in leadership roles, the chairperson shall ask a board member to contact each board member prior to June 1st to solicit names of all individuals to be considered for chair and vice chair. The vote for chair and vice chair will be held at the last board meeting in June, and that is the June, I'm just getting the dates right, 18th meeting. We have one meeting between now and then, which is the June 3rd meeting. So typically as this goes, the chairperson asks one of the outgoing board people to start this process. I have asked Annika, as she has been policy chair before and has looked at this policy, and also after last year's procedure, people had questions, and I know we try to gather some more information to try to do a better process going forward. And so I know Annika's reviewed that again and just would like to talk through what that might look like for this year. And I know I let Tim know we were talking about this, and you guys, I think, connected to before this meeting since he wouldn't be here. But if you'd like just to mention what you're thinking about for this year's process.
Sure. Well, as reflected in policy, I will be reaching out to all of you to sign up for a time with me next week, it sounds like, since it's supposed to be done by June 1st. So I'll create some way for us to find times together. But I actually need to go back to credit Ann Maximovich, who filled this role prior to me a couple of years ago. And shared some thoughts on the process at that time, looking at other districts' practices around electing their chair, at least chair, maybe also vice chair. And one of the policies that Anne shared at that time was from Portland, where their procedure involves having an opportunity for each person who is interested or willing to serve as chair, have an opportunity to speak at the meeting, can go with our 3-minute time limit that we have during public comment as well, and just speak to the board about why they are interested in taking on that position. Gives the board an opportunity to hear from each person who might be interested. And then the way that it works in Portland, as opposed to just moving one name forward for a motion at a time, would actually be a voice vote of the board following those presentations, and each person naming the candidate who would have their support. And there's a procedure if there were to be a tie, that kind of thing. But it's something that I would like to put on the table for feedback as a potential process. I would see it kind of being a hybrid, I guess, of how we've done things in the past, where certainly I would continue to have those conversations with everyone next week, if possible, to find out, who is interested in serving in those positions. But then when it comes down to the actual meeting, have an opportunity again for each person who's interested to speak for up to 3 minutes, and then have the voting and the actual then motion, I think, for who we're electing into those positions come after that. So happy to answer questions if people have them about what I'm thinking, or hear your initial reactions and feedback. Leanne was going to reach out to the Portland board, but might not, or chair,
I didn't
have heard back.
Usually I hear back, and I haven't, but
we were hoping to get some feedback on
how is it working.
Yeah, how is it working
in practice? Although they've now had the same board chair for a few years, so I don't know.
Maybe there hasn't been a lot of competition for the role.
Right. But yeah, as soon as I do hear back, I'll certainly let you know. I guess my only question, and I'm just forgetting, is part of the conversations with individuals also include who they would be interested in seeing in leadership?
Yes, so we have, that has been part of the conversations in the past, and I apologize for not mentioning that. Okay. And the process, at least as Portland practices it, is that I could also nominate someone else, but I guess then they would have to.
Maybe if nobody was interested, really, that you'd have to
yeah.
Somebody's going to do it.
So you could nominate someone else through that process. It doesn't just have to be all identifying myself, but of course that person would have to be willing to potentially take on the role. which could be figured out in the moment pretty easily, I'm
Yeah.
sure.
And I'll just repeat publicly what I said last year. 3 years has been great. I am excited for somebody else to take on the chair. Yeah.
But I think that process that we have in place, both of finding out from people whether they're interested and also who they might like to see in leadership, that can be an important clarifying process just going into then I think the meeting where we have more discussions.
Yeah,
so that we
because
can
sometimes
know.
it's like, oh, is somebody interested? And I just need to know if they're
Right.
actually interested. Yeah.
So other
I like it.
comments?
I have a quick question just on process. Are we legally mandated to do this with the current board rather than the incoming board?
Well, by our policy, we are bound.
By our
to-
policy.
Yes. Yes,
So
by our
that is not
policy.
state statute.
No.
And
At
we
one
are
point,
unique.
At one point, the board did, it was a few years ago that changed, and I don't know if it had flip-flopped ever before then, but a few
Yeah,
years
this
ago,
is 2017.
Yeah, there we
Yeah.
go, is when that changed from the incoming board to the outgoing board. But that is our policy.
I couldn't remember if it was our policy, if it was state
No,
statute,
and we
if
are
it
actually
was
pretty unique.
pretty unique. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, I know in Anne's comments that she shared, you know, noting like some mixed feelings about that, but apparently the rationale at the time was thinking that the board that has been working together knows each other, might have, you know, more experience and information to go off of. Again, she was not saying that was necessarily the way to go, but it is how our policy is.
Okay. Other questions? Okay. All right. Anybody want a motion to adjourn? Sarah, second? Anyone?
Oh, I was just voting.
Absolutely.
I am motioning.
All in favor?
Scott?
Yeah, that was
To
the second.
adjourn. Thank you. It's unanimous. I mean, it went past 10 more minutes, but.
That was me. I apologize.
Good evening.
10 minutes.
See, David, you got to stay awake.